Originally, Ouyang Chuyu had been about to call a retreat. She had only summoned everyone to win back the Xiantian Dao sect's honor. To put it more bluntly, it had been for face. Now she had won and succeeded in killing tens of thousands of the corrupt path's experts. She had even killed 2 foundation forging experts. This counterattack had been enough to shake the eastern wasteland. Once she reported this accomplishment back to the head sect, they wouldn't reprimand her. Instead, they would praise her, and the Xiantian Dao sect's name would rise to a new height in the eastern wasteland. With this battle, she would be able to give a show to the head sect as well as the eastern wasteland's righteous path. And so she had been planning on retreating, because if they continued fighting, this matter might escape her control. You want to? Ouyang Chuyu jumped in shock. Yes. I'm preparing on leading everyone into the spatial portal and start a slaughter of their hive, said Long Chen. You can't. That spatial portal leads to one of the corrupt path's 7 great strongholds. Although it looks calm from the outside, once you go in, you won't just have to face countless formations and mechanisms, the other 6 strongholds experts will also come to reinforce them. At that time, you'll be facing the entire eastern wasteland's corrupt path's attack. In fact, half-step kings might appear. Don't think that the corrupt path only has so few people. This is just an unwritten rule that without approval from above, neither the righteous nor corrupt path will launch an all-out war against the other. But if we ignore that and attack, the corrupt path will be able to gather all their experts to kill us. Everyone was shocked to hear that Long Chen wanted to charge into the corrupt path's hive. Perhaps the younger generation didn't understand, but the Sea Expansion elders were aware of these rules. More rules. I hate those things the most. Battle is not a game. Who is the referee? Who came up with the rules? After they're broken, who gives out the punishment? I'll tell you, rules are always chains the strong use to control the weak. As for the strong, they'll ignore those chains and kill you whenever they please. Isn't the righteous path a perfect example? Each time the righteous and corrupt battles begin, isn't it the corrupt path that attacks? Did they ever send you a notification before attacking? Did they tell you where they were attacking? Did they tell you their numbers? Why do they get to be the player and the referee, while we just have to accept that? Long Chen looked at Ouyang Chuyu, his voice full of disappointment. Even Ouyang Chuyu, an expert who could command an enormous existence like the Xiantian Dao sect, was actually constrained by these idiot rules. Long Chen really was starting to feel like there was no hope for the righteous path. Ouyang Chuyu didn't know what to say. She had always felt the righteous path to be very stupid and cowardly, but despite how high her cultivation base was, she didn't dare to break the rules that had been followed for countless years. Seeing Long Chen's disappointed expression deeply stimulated her heart. She clenched her teeth and said, "Long Chen, no matter what you choose to do, I will accompany you." Although she hadn't known Long Chen for long, she had to admire his heaven-defying ability to stir up trouble. Since Long Chen wanted to play bigger, then as the sect master, she would accompany him for a bout of craziness. Even Ouyang Chuyu herself didn't know why she felt that taking risks with Long Chen was so frightening, but this kind of fright was also extremely stimulating. She had always handled things steadily and calmly. Whatever she did, all the results were basically within her expectations. But this time, she had no idea what the results would be. The more you didn't know the results, the more stimulating it was. It was like a gamble. Without revealing the final card, no one knew just who had won and who had lost. Guoran, come over. Boss, you have instructions for me? Do you still have any more of those supreme bombs? I just need one. Boss, I only have one. This bomb scope was huge. Back then he had only managed to use one at the start, as otherwise, he would have injured his own people. So the second one had gone unused. Good. We'll use it as the opening act. Guoran, you can be the vanguard. Give them our gift. Remember, we want to start off with a bang. Long Chen patted Guoran on the shoulder. Don't worry boss, it'll definitely be enough to shake heaven and earth, said Guoran excitedly. However, don't put on your poser act. If you want to be a poser, wait until you set off the bomb, warned Long Chen. Who knew if this fellow had gotten too addicted to posing and would mess things up? Long Chen, are you sure he can handle such a thing? Ouyang Chuyu was hesitant. Although Guoran's aura had reached sea expansion, his aura wasn't particularly outstanding. She couldn't help being worried. Sect Master, don't worry. If I didn't have any ability, how could I follow boss? My life is pretty tough as well, said Guoran, confidently patting himself on the chest. After the immense battle in the immemorial path, Guoran could also count as someone with his own story. Each movement he made seemed to possess the manner of an expert. It did have a bit of an intimidating flavor. The others you don't need to enter. I suppose you can just wait outside. Long Chen glanced at the sea expansion experts of the Xintian Dao sect and shook his head. Long Chen, are you ignoring us because you think we're too weak? Asked one of them. Long Chen helplessly stared at him. In the end, he truthfully nodded, almost causing that elder to cough up blood. Not every sea expansion expert here was a coward. Long Chen also hadn't expected there to be this many people who wanted to fight. Sect leader, we also want to go in. We can also fight. Even if death lies within, we're not afraid. We'll go all out against those bastards from the corrupt path. Affected by their sect leaders, quite a few disciples began to shout emotionally. All of you shut your mouths. Even we would just be cannon fodder once we enter, so how do any of you have the qualifications? Go back and focus on cultivating. Wait to put your life on the line once you get stronger, scolded their sect leaders. But they were gratified. Perhaps only at this time was it possible to clearly see who was a real man. They were gratified to see that there really were quite a few hot-blooded men in the righteous path. They regretted wasting their time fighting each other. What would happen if they focused on raising these hot-blooded men? Thinking of this all, they were incredibly ashamed. Space suddenly shook. The powerful rumbling shocked everyone, and they hastily turned to look in a certain direction. Meng Qi's spiritual barrier now vanished. Over 300 experts were releasing turbulent auras. Illusory seas appeared behind him. Collective sea expansion tribulation? Everyone was shocked. The Dragonblood Legion's experts were all advancing to sea expansion at the same time. Hundreds of chi pillars soared into the sky. Each one of the Dragonblood warriors' chi seas was over 2,000 miles. They were all together so their seas superimposed, causing intense rumbling in space. Guoran, go ahead. Fire the opening shot, shouted Long Chen. All right, I'm going. Guoran summoned his golden armor and charged into the spatial portal. Everything was silent for a moment, but then the spatial portal began to tremble. It was possible to hear a very faint bang. Dragonblood Legion, charge. Undergo tribulation in the corrupt path's hive. The corrupt path's stronghold was actually a whole minor world. It was a world created by an almighty expert and was hundreds of thousands of miles wide. This kind of minor world was similar to a spatial vessel and didn't possess its own laws. It was essentially the same as the outer world, but it was extremely hidden. If you didn't know the entrance, it was essentially impossible for others to notice it. Countless experts of the corrupt path had gathered within this minor world. The old monster that Long Chen had injured was nervously looking at the portal. Are you sure they'll enter? You have mustered such a large force, but there's no movement coming from their side. Are you sure you weren't just scared out of your wits? A pockmarked, corpse-like elder glared at the person who had been injured by Long Chen. His voice contained ridicule, because in the sneak attack against the Xintian Dao sect, all 7 of their strongholds had sent in troops, but only this stronghold was counterattacked. Now, although their sneak attack had succeeded, Ouyang Chuyu had led a fierce counterattack to turn the old monster into his current state. He had lost all his elite warriors, so this elder was laughing at his misfortune. However, since he had received an urgent request for help, he had no choice but to come here. This stronghold now contained the elites of all the other 6 strongholds. They numbered over 400,000. Having mustered such a huge force, if the Xintian Dao sect didn't dare to attack, it would become a massive joke. They had over 3,000 sea expansion experts, and a total of 18 foundation forging experts. Such a force was practically enough to overturn the entire eastern wasteland. This was the result of that injured elder sending out an urgent distress signal. Although they had all known that bringing all their forces like this was overkill, when the urgent distress signal was used, they all had no choice but to move out. Those were the rules, and no one dared to go against them. "Shut up. Don't think that you can bully me just because I'm down and out," roared the person Long Chen had injured. He was this stronghold's master. All his elites had been killed. Such immense damage was something that couldn't be recovered from without several centuries. Originally, his stronghold had counted as above average amongst the 7 strongholds. But now they had immediately become the bottom existence, and even he had been beaten badly. He was already enraged, and as soon as that other elder added some oil to the fire, he exploded. As for the person he cursed, he was infuriated to be pointed at and cursed back. He had long since gotten tired of that old monster's bragging, and he was just about to counterattack. Suddenly, a golden figure charged through the spatial portal, startling everyone. But when they saw that it was just one person, they hesitated. "Don't activate the killing formation. They sent one scapegoat, so don't waste the formation on one person," shouted one of the corrupt path's elders. "Scapegoat? Fuck your mother. I am the grand and illustrious Guoran. When did I become a scapegoat?" Guoran furiously tossed out a huge sphere. It landed in front of the spatial portal, an empty land covered in runes. It was a huge killing formation. Boom! The huge sphere exploded upon striking the land. An immense force instantly erupted. Not good. The bomb's explosion was absolutely horrifying, as it completely destroyed the killing formation. Not only that, but bone thorns also shot out like rain. Those bone thorns came from the immemorial path. Even ordinary sea expansion experts couldn't handle them, let alone the Xiantian disciples the corrupt path had gathered. Anyone touched by a bone thorn would instantly die. This attack scope was incredibly huge, and although the Foundation forging experts hastily took action and formed barriers of light, tens of thousands of their disciples had still been killed. These bone thorns contained poison, and a single one of them could pierce through hundreds of disciples. They were just too weak in comparison. "Kill that golden armored monstrosity!" The corrupt path's experts roared. They found that the killing formation they had set up in advance had been completely ruined and couldn't be activated. They had the urge to tear Guoran apart piece by piece. "I've already said, my name is Guoran. Are my words too complicated for you, or are you deaf?" Raged Guoran. Just as the corrupt path was thrown into a mess by Guoran's attack, the sky suddenly darkened. "What's going on? Heavens, someone's undergoing tribulation." A huge mass of people charged out of the spatial portal. Their initial seas surged behind them. Boom. Endless lightning poured down from the sky, landing amongst them. "It's a sea expansion tribulation. Sea expansion experts, hurry up and kill them. Foundation forging experts, suppress your cultivation bases to sea expansion and slaughter them, quick," shouted one of the Foundation forging experts. They hadn't expected Long Chen to be so ruthless as to send in a huge group of people that were undergoing tribulation. This move was too vicious. Because this was a sea expansion tribulation, their Xiantian disciples all met misfortune. This tribulation wasn't something they could endure. "A portion of you, go kill them. Xiantian disciples, gather together and find a sea expansion expert to protect you. This is just the first wave of the tribulation and isn't that strong. Quick, kill them now," roared a Foundation forging expert. Haha, in a battle against opponents from the same realm, when have the Dragonblood warriors ever been afraid of anyone? The Dragonblood warriors laughed and brandished their weapons, slaughtering their enemies. Their collective tribulation was a part of Long Chen's battle plans. Within the scope of the tribulation clouds, everyone had to suppress their power to the level of the person undergoing tribulation. Otherwise, the heavenly tribulation would suddenly grow in power. Unless the Foundation forging experts gave up on everyone else's lives, they couldn't go all out. Otherwise, this sea expansion tribulation would become Foundation forging tribulation. That tribulation could instantly annihilate anyone below Foundation forging. At this time, Long Chen, Ouyang Chuyu, and the others also entered. However, Long Chen didn't participate in the battle. Instead, he just calmly watched. No one was more confident in the Dragonblood Legion's power than Long Chen. On this battlefield, no one could defeat them in the same realm. When those sea expansion elders that had valiantly demanded to be allowed into the fight saw the sea of corrupt experts, they were all startled. They hadn't expected the corrupt path to possess such numbers. However, they also saw the Dragonblood warriors slaughtering their way into their midst while also dealing with the lightning tribulation. They were like tigers pouncing on a flock of sheep. Each slash of their blades killed a group. This was an absolute slaughter. Long Chen, this move of yours is ruthless. You're forcing the corrupt path to not use their true power. Ouyang Chuyu couldn't help being moved. She saw that the foundation forging experts who charged toward the Dragonblood Legion were completely unaccustomed to fighting with their cultivation bases suppressed to sea expansion. They didn't dare to use many of their moves, and as a result, a single one of them was at most able to hold back 5 Dragonblood warriors. Just 5 disciples were able to go against a foundation forging expert. They were so furious that their faces were green. Then seeing the Dragonblood warriors slaughtering their elite disciples, they felt like they might explode. Disciple of the righteous path, just wait. We'll slaughter you to the last, roared one of the foundation forging experts. I'll slaughter you all with a smash of my club. Wild charged out. The lightning rain was unable to affect him at all, and he charged right in front of that foundation forging expert. Fuck off, do you think I'm easy to bully? Roared the foundation forging expert. He sent a punch at Wild. Seeing that, quite a few of the sea expansion elders couldn't help but feel worried for Wild. But they suddenly found that Long Chen, Meng Qi, and the others suddenly couldn't bear to watch and turned away. Bang! That foundation forging expert had his cultivation base suppressed to sea expansion. As a result, a single smash of Wild's club destroyed half his upper body. And before he could even react, Wild's second smash blew him to bits. The sea expansion elders were all horrified. A foundation forging expert, an almost pinnacle existence within the eastern wasteland, had been killed with 2 smashes of a club. This was too hard to believe. Even Ouyang Chuyu was filled with shock, her hand covering her mouth. She couldn't believe her eyes. On the contrary, Long Chen's expression was calm. Everything was within his expectations. Wild was a complete freak. He had no cultivation base, and the heavenly tribulation was unable to lock onto him. For a foundation forging expert to suppress his cultivation base to sea expansion, he would only be a bit stronger than a peak sea expansion expert. But Wild's power wasn't suppressed at all, so for him to be able to kill that expert with 2 smashes of his club was completely normal. Wild's participation in the battle caused complete chaos. He was focusing on the strongest experts of the corrupt path, the foundation forging experts. When another foundation forging expert activated his treasure item but was still almost killed in a single blow, he shouted, "Avoid that giant brat. Something's off about him." Wild wreaked havoc amongst the corrupt path as he chased the foundation forging experts through the battlefield. Seeing foundation forging experts fleeing like chickens in front of a dog, Ouyang Chuyu and the others were flabbergasted. Buzz. The lightning tribulation grew even stronger. Lightning rain, lightning arrows, lightning spears, and finally, lightning beasts appeared. The corrupt path was finally unable to bear it. The Xiantian experts were still blown apart even under the protection of sea expansion experts. Hold. This is the final wave of the tribulation, shouted a foundation forging expert. He saw lightning beasts descending from the sky one by one. By the time the lightning beasts had filled the battlefield, the corrupt path's original army of over 400,000 had been reduced by 2/3. 99% of their casualties had been because of the heavenly tribulation. Rumble. What? It's over already. Is this the bias given to celestials? Seeing the tribulation clouds slowly scatter, Long Chen couldn't help being disappointed. He had an urge to fly up and give it a punch to bring it back, but he decided against it. Then he would be playing a bit too big. "You damnable righteous path, time for you to die," roared one of the foundation forging experts. His aura erupted and he sent a powerful palm crashing toward the dragon blood warriors. "You're the one who should die, you old ghost." A huge giant appeared in the sky, breaking his palm image with a single blow. Wild had activated the barbarian blood bronze body. He smashed apart his attack and then sent another smash toward him. "Corrupt blood grand formation," shouted the foundation forging expert. He suddenly transformed to look like a ghoul who had just flown out of a pool of blood. Ghost chi soared out of his body, and with a wave of his hand, a blood-colored spear shot toward Wild. Boom! The blood-colored spear was shattered by a single blow from Wild. "Impossible! How can you not be affected by the blood soul impact?" Seeing Wild had no reaction, that corrupt foundation forging expert was shocked. That blood spear of his was not just a physical attack. It also contained a powerful spiritual aspect, one that would confuse a person's mind and make a person fall into illusions. They would fall into a blood sea that they couldn't escape from. He couldn't believe that Wild really had no reaction to his attack. What corrupt blood grand formation, what soul impact? My brother Long said that no matter what enemies I face, they can all be handled with a good smash of my club. If one smash isn't enough, then two. If two isn't enough, then I just have to continue until they're dead. But Wild once more smashed his club at him. The corrupt expert refused to accept this, and he launched 7 of those blood spears again. But Wild seemed immune to the blood soul impact, causing him to be so furious that he involuntarily trembled. Foundation forging experts possessed a high level of comprehension into spatial energy. Thus, they were able to release the full power of magical arts. But no matter what magical arts this foundation forging expert used, whether offensive or defensive, Wild would simply repeatedly smash his club at him. The runes of his magical arts would shatter each time. At the same time, Meng Qi, Tangwana, Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan all moved out, starting a fierce fight with the foundation forging experts. Ouyang Chuyu and the others were shocked to see that they were able to fight foundation forging experts one-on-one without losing. Originally, they had been weaker than Wild. But that weakness had been erased after consuming rank 4 heavenly Dao fruits and the 10,000 spirit blood. Their power had reached a completely new level. Should we first destroy their transportation formations and cut the reinforcements off? Asked Ouyang Chuyu. No need. Since we're playing, let's play bigger. I want to make the corrupt path pay a miserable price. Long Chen shook his head. Shui Yu had completely infuriated him. Right now, he wasn't fighting for the righteous path, but for revenge for Little Snow. A blood debt had to be paid with blood. Fine, up to you. In any case, I'm just accompanying you. I'll go out first. Ouyang Chuyu smiled slightly. She felt a feeling of freedom she hadn't felt in a long time. Long Chen was the true leader of this battlefield. Ouyang Chuyu felt a feeling of delight. This was the first time in many years that the burden on her shoulders was released. She felt relaxed and carefree. She had an urge to give Long Chen the title of sect master. In fact, she felt like she had returned to the springtime of her youth back when her blood had been boiling as well. Brats from the corrupt path, if you have any skill, come and try me. Perhaps it was because she had forgotten herself, or perhaps she was just too excited, or perhaps Ouyang Chuyu had always been hiding her craziness. But she actually shouted such an inappropriate thing as she charged out. Ouyang Chuyu attacked, blocking 5 foundation forging experts on her own. Her jade palm released powerful runes that caused the world to shake. What startled Long Chen was that Ouyang Chuyu's magical arts were different from others. She didn't need any hand seals. With each wave of her hand, a rune flew out and transformed into a sword. In truth, Ouyang Chuyu had been holding back when she had fought outside the spatial portal. She had been constantly thinking about what kind of victory she required in order to win back the Xiantian Dao sect's face. She had possessed the power to kill those 2 foundation forging experts back then. After all, she had already touched the next barrier. Compared to an ordinary foundation forging expert, she was much stronger. However, what she wanted was a total victory. She needed her disciples to win as well, as just slaughtering the corrupt experts on her own wasn't enough to raise their morale. Furthermore, that would go against the unwritten rules of the righteous and corrupt battles. During huge battles, the experts on both sides couldn't attack those of a weaker level. Once they did, the entire world would become chaotic. With each side doing their best to ruin the other, there was no way for either party to develop. This law of troops fighting troops, generals fighting generals had existed since a long time ago. Otherwise, if everyone started sending experts to kill their opponents' children, this world would become completely chaotic. That was why even if Ouyang Qiuyu had killed those 2 foundation forging experts, it wouldn't have counted as a victory to her. She had needed her disciples to kill the corrupt experts and win a double-sided victory. However, all of this had been changed by Long Chen. He didn't give a damn about any of that. He directly charged into their hive, and his goal was only to cause their blood to turn into rivers. He wanted revenge. Ouyang Qiuyu had thrown caution to the wind, allowing Long Chen to do as he pleased. She would rather be a merry warrior and charge into the front lines. Long Chen, what do you want us to do? Asked a monastery head. They had all made their preparations. Just watch, or perhaps activate some photographic jades to record the battle. You can use those to encourage your disciples in the future, said Long Chen indifferently. What? Is that really all right? He asked. There's no choice. This battle is just the beginning. Look, another 2 foundation forging experts just appeared from the transportation formation. That means our enemies are still gathering. The battle will only grow more intense. You might have the correct heart, but you don't have the power. In this battle, any random shockwave might kill you. Such death has no meaning. Long Chen shook his head. The transportation formation was constantly lighting up. Groups of corrupt experts were constantly appearing, and they had all at least reached sea expansion. The monastery head sighed despondently. The others also looked dispirited. I don't say these things because I'm looking down on you or because I want to insult you. I want you to know just how big this world is. As for us, for some insignificant advantages, we act like a leaf can blind us to a mountain. The only thing we do is use our small intellects to fight against each other. There is no meaning behind that. Although the lot of you don't have the power to fight here, you have plenty of experience and can use that experience to raise your disciples in the future. Let them resolve the regrets you have, said Long Chen. They all clearly understood his reasoning. Seeing these experts fighting, they felt even more regret for wasting all their time on useless things. Just watch here. I have work to do. Long Chen also charged into the battle in the air. That was the battle of the foundation forging experts. More and more corrupt experts were appearing, and Long Chen went to replace Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. In the air, the 2 of them were like fish that had jumped onto dry land. They were already starting to buckle. Go take a break. Remember my signal. Long Chen summoned his divine ring and slashed with his saber, blocking 3 foundation forging experts. All right. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan both wiped off their sweat. They really were unable to bring out their full power in the air. Long Chen had joined the battle, but he didn't use his full power. He was simply stalling as he fought with Ouyang Qiuyu and the others. More and more experts were arriving. The Corrupt Path's foundation forging experts now numbered 25. That number was shocking. Down below, the majority of the Xiantian experts had been killed. Blood dyed the ground scarlet, and corpses littered the ground. Right now, the battlefield on the ground belonged solely to Sea Expansion experts. Tens of thousands of Sea Expansion experts had surrounded the Dragon Blood Legion. Despite their huge numbers advantage, they were unable to stop the Dragon Blood Legion. With each passing breath, several of their experts died. As for the Dragon Blood warriors, their morale only continued to grow as the battle progressed, and they became fiercer and fiercer. It was like a group of sheep was surrounding a group of tigers. Steady, steady, shouted one of the squad leaders. The Dragon Blood Legion had 4 captains, Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan. Below them were the squad leaders. There was 1 squad leader for every 10 warriors. Normally, they were only in charge of their squads, but now this squad leader had no choice but to give a warning to everyone. Sorry, I was getting too addicted. I forgot, apologized a dragon blood warrior. They needed to kill at a steady pace so that their enemies only continued to increase. Long Chen wanted to play big and force the corrupt path to bring out all their power. It was to give the corrupt path an unforgettable experience. There's 28 of them already. How could the corrupt path have hidden them so well? Ouyang Chuyu sent a spiritual message to Long Chen. She was extremely shocked. Long Chen, how do you plan on handling this? My appetite's big, so we're just going to continue until the corrupt path uses up every last bit of their power, said Long Chen. Are you confident? Ouyang Chuyu was startled. Don't I have you by my side? As the Xiantian Dao sect's leader, I don't believe you don't have some frightening trump cards, laughed Long Chen. Sly brat, so you even included me in your calculations, raged Ouyang Chuyu. As time passed, more experts continued to arrive. Ouyang Chuyu was shocked to see that the corrupt path had over 100,000 sea expansion experts. As for foundation forging experts, they now numbered 56. Long Chen and the others were in a dangerous situation now. How could the corrupt path have so many experts? This power is already beyond the sum of the righteous path. The sea expansion elders watching the fight were stunned. If they weren't personally witnessing it, they would never have believed such a thing. When had the corrupt path grown to such a level? Had they always been concealing their power? Had they been planning some immense scheme? Thinking of that, they felt a chill. One of them thought to leave now and spread the photographic jades while he could, letting everyone realize the scope of the corrupt path's forces. Even if they all died, at least the righteous path could prepare themselves. Crap, the spatial portal has been sealed. His expression suddenly changed. More and more corrupt experts arrived. After 2 hours, they finally came to a stop. It's about time. Everyone, there's no need to hold back. Start the slaughter, shouted Long Chen. His saber lit up, and with a single slash, a foundation forging expert was killed. 4-star battle armor. With the 4-star battle armor and divine ring, Long Chen's power leaped to a level the corrupt foundation forging experts had never imagined. For Long Chen, who had been in such a desperate situation, to suddenly explode with such power, the expert was caught off guard and blown into bloody mist in a single attack, his treasure item also shattering. His spatial arts posed no resistance against Long Chen's full power. They were as weak as paper. A huge saber image tore into the sky and ruthlessly slashed down. Boom. 5 foundation forging experts were sent flying. Before they could stabilize, Long Chen formed hand seals. Double dragon destruction. 2 huge coiling dragons shot out, releasing a destructive power as they charged at the 5 of them. Despite doing their best to block and summoning many layers of defense, their power was not worth mentioning in front of the 2 dragons. The 5 of them were turned to ash. This sudden change stupefied the corrupt path. No matter what, they couldn't make themselves believe their own eyes. Long Chen had suddenly transformed into an unrivaled battle god, killing 6 of their foundation forging experts in an instant. There's finally no more need to hold back? God-slaying slash. Long Chen had just erupted when Yu Zifeng's flying rainbow slashed down. He also killed a foundation forging expert in one blow. After absorbing the 10,000 spirit blood, he had condensed innate divine runes and his own spirit blood. When he used spirit blood to activate his divine runes, his power could shake the heavens. At the same time, Gu Yang, Meng Qi, Tang Wan, and the others all instantly released their power, slaughtering the foundation forging experts they were fighting. I won't lose to you youngsters. I'm not old yet. Seeing her young disciples release such power, Ouyang Chuyu clapped her hands together and shouted, Xiantian triple revolution slash. A violet rune formed a huge cyclone. 3 flying blades rapidly spun within it as it struck the 5 foundation forging experts she was fighting. The 5 of them went all out, but as soon as they clashed, their expressions changed. That cyclone paused due to their defense, but then it once more spun. Once the first blade was blocked, the second blade fell on them. They once more hastily blocked. This time, its attack was even stronger and the 5 of them vomited blood, feeling like their bones were about to fall apart. Just at that moment, the third blade struck. Helpless to resist, the 5 of them were cut to shreds. After killing 5 foundation forging experts with one attack, a faint rosy color appeared on Ouyang Qiuyu's face. But it quickly receded. Long Chen saw it clearly and couldn't help but shake his head. This sect master of his truly was competitive. She had definitely paid a price to release that attack. But he didn't say anything to break her facade. Under everyone's powerful retaliation, over 10 foundation forging experts were killed in an instant, shocking the entire battlefield. Brothers Kit, Earth Burial. Song Mingyuan and Li Qi attacked at the same time. The ground crumbled and countless earth dragons sprang out. Their 30-meter-wide mouths devoured people in one gulp. Dozens of corrupt experts were devoured into the ground. Those people's auras rapidly vanished. Kill. There's no need to hold back any longer. Cut them down. The Dragon Blood warriors' auras erupted like volcanoes. They could finally release their full power. Heavenly Dao runes appeared around them. Heaven's 3-colored runes. They're all rank 3 celestials. Now, all the Sea Expansion Elders were dumbfounded. The Heavenly Dao power the Dragon Blood Legion had now erupted with could not be mistaken. They had gone from tigers to dragons. They charged forward, reaping the lives of the corrupt experts. From the Dragon Blood warriors' auras, they had a sudden thought and looked up into the sky again. Previously, the attacks had been too fierce and they hadn't been able to get a clear look. But now they saw it clearly. Rank 4 celestials. 4-colored runes revolved around Meng Qi and the others. Heaven and earth quivered as endless energy was absorbed by the runes. It was like the world was giving them its blessing. Kill. Don't hold back, shouted Long Chen. With another use of Split the Heavens, a foundation forging expert was cut down again. This was already the 9th foundation forging expert he had killed. When Long Chen and the others went all out, in just a few breaths, the 56 foundation forging experts were cut down to 30. It all happened so suddenly that they were unable to react. Boom. A foundation forging expert's sword landed on Long Chen's shoulder. Blood splashed and it was possible to see the bone. But Long Chen's saber had cut off the expert's hand, and with a kick, his head exploded. Brats from the righteous path, you are provoking the corrupt path. Suddenly, 2 elders wearing simple robes appeared on the transportation formation. Their faces were covered in wrinkles, but their eyes shone with a bright light. There seemed to be a faint blood color hidden within them. Most curious of all, their eyes seemed to have their own world. Boundless energy circulated within them. As soon as they appeared, everyone felt like they had fallen to the bottom of the sea. A powerful pressure made it feel like time was moving slowly. Half-step kings, cried Ouyang Qiuyu in shock. She had known that the corrupt path might have had a half-step king presiding over it, but for 2 of them to really appear still shocked her. Half-step kings, experts who had taken half a step into the king realm. Although they weren't true kings, they had already touched upon a king's divine power. Ouyang Qiuyu had also touched that barrier, but she still hadn't comprehended that last step. During her trip to the head sect this time, she had listened to other experts preach the Tao, and she had benefited immensely. She had originally been planning on going into seclusion upon returning and attacking the half-step king realm. But she had encountered a complete mess when she had returned, and she hadn't had any time or the ability to calm herself down and focus on comprehending the martial Tao. Although she had been prepared, the appearance of the 2 half-step kings still shocked her. She felt like they really had played it big. You're wrong, I don't have time to provoke you idiots. Let me ask you, where is Shuiyu? Long Chen icily stared at the 2 elders, battle intent raging in his eyes. When he mentioned Shuiyu, Little Snow's image reappeared in his mind. It was like he could see the scene of him dying again. A burst of pain filled his heart. You should be Long Chen, correct? You really are a fool to run here to send yourself to death, said one of the 2 elders. He was tall and thin like a stalk of bamboo. A cruel smile appeared on his face, making him look as sinister as a ghost. Long Chen suddenly made a motion with his hand. No one understood, but then a bang rang out. The stronghold's transportation formations all exploded. Boss, it's done. Song Mingyuan and Li Qi had both been waiting for Long Chen's signal. Humph, how absolutely senseless. The two half-step kings hadn't expected Long Chen to do this. But they also didn't care. You're wrong, I never do anything senseless. Now that the transportation formations are broken, we are all sealed here. No one will be entering for a while at least. That's the only way we can have a real life and death battle. Long Chen looked at the two of them without the slightest bit of fear. Everyone else paused to stare at Long Chen and the two half-step kings. Life and death battle? Laughable. Do you think you can have a life and death battle with us? Foolish to the peak. Sneered one of them. Long Chen shook his head. It seems your corrupt path really is very powerful, more powerful than I expected. But of course. Long Chen ignored them and continued. It seems Shuiyu didn't explain what had happened after returning to the corrupt path. Or perhaps, you aren't from the same faction as him. Either way, it seems he didn't tell you the truth. Otherwise, my low-grade tactics wouldn't have had such a great effect. It seems I have to thank him once I see him. The two elders' expressions changed slightly. Long Chen's words had hit right on the mark. In truth, the Eastern Wasteland's corrupt path was split into two camps, and there were definitely some conflicts between them. Shuiyu just happened to not be part of their faction. As for Ka Wutu, he had been part of their faction, which was why Ka Wutu had targeted Shuiyu. In truth, they had learned the news that Long Chen had entered their stronghold as soon as it had happened. Originally, they hadn't cared. After all, coming here just made him a turtle caught in a jar. They had gathered their stronghold's experts and sent them to kill him as a trial. They viewed this kind of battle as nothing more than a kind of game. As a result, Long Chen and the others had been so strong that they had been forced to send even more experts. In truth, doing so was exposing the hidden power of the corrupt path. However, the spatial portal had already been closed by them, so Long Chen and the others couldn't escape. So what if they exposed their power? Dead people tell no tales. As for Long Chen, when he had seen that he had drawn out all their power, he had immediately started a slaughter, making it so that these two elders couldn't keep watching. With the transportation formations broken, and with Long Chen suddenly mentioning Shuiyu, a slightly bad feeling rose in their hearts. It seemed as if everything was within Long Chen's expectations. Why hasn't Leng Yuan come? Asked Long Chen. Brat, you talk a lot. Since you like to talk, I'll make sure you mop the ground for me every day once I refine you into a living corpse. Shouted one of them. Since she hasn't come, I'm put at ease. Long Chen really was relieved. Although he hadn't talked much with Leng Yuan, through some of her insinuations, he had learned a few of the corrupt path's secrets. Furthermore, it seemed Leng Yuan didn't feel any emotion toward the corrupt path. In fact, Long Chen could sense that inside, she hated and loathed the corrupt path. It was precisely because of this that Long Chen didn't understand his relationship with Leng Yuan. In the end, he was unable to muster the resolve to kill her. So the fact that she hadn't come allowed him to sigh with relief. 1 for 1. Long Chen looked toward Ouyang Chuyu. Will you be all right? Asked Ouyang Chuyu worriedly. This kind of question is an insult to a man. Long Chen smiled. Seeing that Long Chen could still joke at this time ended up stirring Ouyang Chuyu's pride. She smiled, battle intent rising within her. Let's start then. Brothers, the true battle starts. The sect master and I will handle these two old ghosts. Sorry, there won't be a portion for you. But there are plenty of pigs for the slaughter down below. As for who can kill more pigs, it'll be up to who has the ability. Brothers, your weapons are already getting impatient for blood. Let us fight a blood-soaked battle once more today, using their blood to dye our robes. This battle will forever be our glory. Brothers, kill! Long Chen shouted and launched himself at the half-step king, pulling open the curtains of the true battle. Kill! Following Long Chen's roar, the Dragon Blood warriors' blood ignited. They went all out, the treasure items in their hands releasing brilliant lights. Each of the Dragon Blood warriors activated their treasure items' true forms. Boundless killing intent raged in the sky. Each one of them looked like a killing god about to start a slaughter. Spirit blood. This is spirit blood power. Impossible. The two half-step kings roared furiously, filled with disbelief. 360 dragon blood warriors all released spirit blood fluctuations. Considering their immense experience, how could they not notice? It was precisely because they noticed that they couldn't believe it. Geniuses that possessed spirit blood all had shockingly powerful backgrounds and inheritances. Spirit blood was something that would only appear when their ancestral blood was fully activated. The corrupt path had entered an unprecedented golden era, but even they had pitifully few disciples with spirit blood. And what was unbelievable was that each one of the dragon blood warriors' spirit blood fluctuations was incredibly powerful. Their spirit blood was extremely dense. Such a thing was simply not possible. Just the fact that the dragon blood warriors were all rank 3 celestials was unbelievable. But now, they had suddenly transformed into rank 3 celestials with spirit blood. "Quick, kill them all!" roared the half-step king. He was truly panicked now. If this continued, then all their elite disciples would be killed. Although their people were sea expansion experts as well, the majority of them weren't celestials, and none of them possessed spirit blood. Even if their realms were higher, how were they supposed to stop the Dragon Blood Legion? They had to kill Long Chen and Ouyang Chuyu quickly so they could stop them. According to this speed, it wouldn't be long before all their sea expansion experts were killed. "You should care about yourself." Long Chen arrived in front of the half-step king, blood drinker slashing down. "Ignorant brat, I'll show you what it means to respect the strong." That half-step king's dried-up hand slammed forth. Although it was just an ordinary attack, it caused space to crumble. Boom! Long Chen's saber landed on his palm. Both his arms shook intensely and his saber almost escaped his grasp. He shot back. "Old ghost, you're quite strong." Being able to blow him back after he had summoned the 4-star battle armor and divine ring showed that half-step kings were truly powerful. "Die!" roared the half-step king. Suppressing his shock, he let out another palm. He had no time to be shocked by Long Chen's power, because with each passing breath, countless elites of the corrupt path were being slaughtered. As for the foundation forging side, there was nothing optimistic about it. Tang Wan'er and the others had also released the power of their spirit blood, and their spirit blood was even more terrifying. Tang Wan'er was especially frightening, with her wind blades forming a sea of death around her. No one could stop her. Tang Wan'er and the others were facing 30 foundation forging experts, but they were so powerful that their opponents were on the verge of collapse. Right now, the only ones who could bring hope to the corrupt path on this battlefield were the two half-step kings. If they couldn't quickly kill Long Chen and Ouyang Chuyu, all their people would be killed. Boom! The half-step king's palm landed. However, what met it wasn't a saber, but a fist covered in green scales. Crack! The half-step king was blown back, his arms broken. He was filled with shock. Long Chen now released a sacred aura with his body completely covered in green scales. "Nice work, Long Chen." Ouyang Chuyu had originally been worried for him, but seeing that he still had such a terrifying trump card, she was put at ease. Although she didn't recognize this move, she could sense the limitless power within Long Chen's body. "Ouyang Chuyu, today, you'll die without a grave." The other half-step king also attacked now. He clearly recognized Ouyang Chuyu, and as soon as he attacked, he released his full power. A bone tower appeared in his hands. It was 3 meters tall, and it was unknown what bone it was made of. Black chi coiled within it. As soon as this ancient tower appeared, the world became gloomy and eerie, as if it had been turned into a ghost region. 9 fiendish heads appeared on top of the tower, and opening their mouths, 9 black arrows shot out. The black arrows caused strange sounds. It was like the void was being corroded. If struck by one of those arrows, even treasure items would corrode to nothingness. Ouyang Chuyu took out a drum. At first, it was only the size of a palm, but it quickly grew to 300 meters, releasing endless divine might. A muffled bang rang out as Ouyang Chuyu's hands slapped onto the drum. Countless runes lit up on its skin. It looked like a formation diagram, and an arc of light shot out. Boom! The 9 arrows blew apart with the light. So you've also brought the Zuanxiu Dao Sect's protective king item, the heaven-catching drum, snorted the half-step king. If it wasn't a king item, how could it block the attack of your 9 ghost refining soul tower? Said Ouyang Chuyu coldly. The heaven-catching drum she had taken out was the Xin Tian Dao sect's protective treasure. Although she wasn't a king and she didn't necessarily have the power to possess a king item, she had the status to. And so the head sect had intentionally given her the king item to protect the sect and control its karmic luck. This was the reason why Ouyang Chuyu dared to come here without a plan. As for the half-step king she was facing, his bone tower was also a powerful king item. He was pressed for time, and so he didn't bother with any testing blows. He directly used his king item to attack. Then let me see just how much of a king item's power someone merely at the peak of foundation forging can bring out, sneered the half-step king. His bone tower began to rapidly revolve, and black chi circulated within it. Black figures charged out of it like ghosts, wailing as they charged toward Ouyang Chuyu. Although I'm not a half-step king, it's no problem for me to hold you back. Ouyang Chuyu repeatedly slammed her palms against the heaven-catching drum. Continuous arcs of light shot out of it, shattering the ghost images. However, the half-step king's bone tower continued to revolve, causing more ghost figures to fly out in an endless stream. In truth, these ghost images were an extremely terrifying soul art. Not only did they possess a powerful spiritual aspect, but they also contained curse energy. If Ouyang Chuyu was struck, it would be very troublesome for her. However, a king item was for kings. Even half-step kings found them extremely difficult to use, and they exhausted a huge amount of spiritual yuan. As for Ouyang Chuyu, she wasn't even a half-step king. So the corrupt elder was intentionally unleashing this barrage of attacks to exhaust Ouyang Chuyu's spiritual yuan. While Ouyang Chuyu fought this half-step king with king items, Long Chen had summoned the green dragon battle armor to fight an even more intense battle with the other half-step king. Half-step kings were incredibly powerful, and magical arts could be used instantaneously by them. They didn't need hand seals and could release them at any moment. Magical arts were normal moves to them. Furthermore, each one of their attacks was incredibly powerful and sharp. As for Long Chen, no matter what attack his opponent used, he would simply let out a punch. Each attack was a heaven-shaking collision. This was Long Chen's second time using the green dragon battle armor, and his control over it was much more refined. Right now, his blood had been completely transformed by the green dragon essence blood, giving rise to a completely new kind of blood. This blood rumbled within his body, and without him even doing anything, it drew out the power of his 4 chi seas to strengthen him. That made him full of energy, like a volcano that had been storing up energy for millions of years and was now finally releasing it all. Furthermore, he found that with each punch, indescribable energy was released by the green dragon battle armor that broke apart any magical art he struck. Even though that was the case, Long Chen had no choice but to admit that half-step kings were truly powerful. Without the green dragon battle armor, he wouldn't have been able to exchange a single blow with them before being heavily injured. Fortunately, he did have the green dragon battle armor. Brandishing his fists, he charged forward. As for the half-step king he was facing, he clearly didn't specialize in close-range combat. His magical arts came out of him in an unending stream. Those magical arts were unable to display any effect in front of the green dragon battle armor. Long Chen's power completely restrained him. The battlefield was now split into 3 sections. Ouyang Chuyu and Long Chen were fighting half-step kings. Long Chen's fight was the most intense, while Ouyang Chuyu and her opponent were both exhausting the other's spiritual yuan through their king items. The more chaotic battle was comprised of Meng Qi, Tang Wana, Yu Zifeng, Gu Yang, and Guoran fighting foundation forging experts. It was also extremely intense. Down below, the Dragon Blood warriors were slaughtering their way through the Corrupt Path's sea expansion army. In just an incense stick's worth of time, their mighty army had lost a third of their number. The Dragon Blood Legion was incredibly fierce. Looking at this imposing scene, the Xin Tian Dao sect's experts all felt like their hearts had stopped pounding. They had never seen such a terrifying scene. Sea expansion experts were truly nothing more than cannon fodder. Now they understood why Long Chen hadn't let them enter the battle. With their little power, throwing them into the battle wouldn't even cause a ripple. At the same time, they were grateful to Long Chen and Ouyang Chuyu. They had given them face and let them enter. Now they could say they had participated in the ultimate righteous and corrupt battle and testify to its unprecedented scale. 3, 2, 1 Release. Meng Qi suddenly gave everyone a spiritual message. On Meng Qi and the others' battlefield, 4 huge figures suddenly appeared. Roaring shook the heavens. 4 fierce roars shook the land as 3 earth dragons and 1 red-eye sacred blood phoenix appeared in the air. They launched a sudden attack against the corrupt experts. This sudden attack caught them off guard. Furthermore, the 4 magical beasts had long since been accumulating power for an attack. 3 waves of dragon breath and an innate ability from the red-eye sacred blood phoenix instantly killed 4 foundation forging experts. Their cooperation had been excellent. The 4 foundation forging experts had been standing together, so all the magical beasts' attacks had been concentrated. As a result, the 4 of them encountered a tragic end. After this attack, the earth dragons fell to the ground, crushing a few corrupt experts fighting down there. The red-eye sacred blood phoenix flew toward the sea expansion elders from the Shintian Dao sect. The corrupt experts had sent a few hundred people to kill them. But the true feather on the blood phoenix's head rose, and a red light slaughtered those attacks. The appearance of the 4 magical beasts caused chaos on the battlefield. The red-eye sacred blood phoenix was in charge of protecting the sea expansion elders, while the 3 earth dragons slaughtered the corrupt experts on the ground. The reason Meng Qi and the others had suddenly released them was because Meng Qi had noticed that Ouyang Chuyu was starting to get pale as she fought against the half-step king. Using a king item was clearly extremely taxing for her. As for the half-step king, his expression was twisted into a sinister smile. This meant half-step kings were truly a step above peak foundation forging. So they had to quickly kill the enemies in front of them to help Ouyang Chuyu. But the corrupt experts had also noticed this and they went all out. Although Meng Qi and the others had managed to kill 4 foundation forging experts in this sudden blow, they were unable to crush the remaining foundation forging experts in a blow. Long Chen, shouted Meng Qi. Understood. Long Chen saw all of this. He had underestimated the power of a half-step king. Fortunately, his opponent didn't have a king item. But despite that, his magical arts came in an unending stream, and he was capable of using all kinds of bizarre techniques. Long Chen was helpless to do anything to him. His skill in magical arts was extremely refined, and Long Chen's own magical arts were too coarse and unrefined to catch him off guard. Furthermore, that old bastard refused to face Long Chen head-on after being injured. He maintained a distance from him, simply trying to make him run out of energy. Seeing Ouyang Chuyu at a disadvantage, Long Chen took a deep breath. 2 dragons flew out of his arms. Lei Long and Hua Long roared, charging at the half-step king. This time, what was being used wasn't their energy, but their true bodies. The half-step king was startled by their appearance. He had never seen such powerful lightning or flame energy. The flame dragon was one thing. After all, there were earth flames in this world. But he had never seen anyone capable of controlling the 9 heavens tribulation lightning. A huge barrier of light appeared in front of him. This was his strongest defense. When the 2 dragons crashed onto the barrier, it shook slightly but didn't break. Split the heavens too. A huge saber image soared into the sky, slashing down with a heaven-destroying power. The half-step king's expression changed and he formed new hand seals. Boom. The barrier exploded and the saber continued down. You can't do anything to me, snorted the old man. He sensed that Long Chen's power was strange and restrained his magical arts. To kill him would be very difficult. But on the other hand, his companion had completely suppressed Ouyang Chuyu. As long as he killed Ouyang Chuyu, he would then be able to instantly kill Long Chen with his king item. The half-step king formed a strange hand seal with his thumb and middle finger touching, and his other fingers clasped. Corrupt spirit shield. Black qi condensed, forming a huge shield. A demonic face twisted in savagery appeared on it. Boom. Blood Drinker slashed onto the corrupt spirit shield. causing a powerful explosion. Runes blew apart in every direction. I told you that you're helpless to do anything to me. The half-step king sneered upon blocking Long Chen's attack. He was extremely confident in his defensive powers. What? But his smile quickly vanished. The exploding runes had blocked his vision and spiritual perception. When his spiritual perception recovered, he suddenly found that Long Chen wasn't in front of him. The only thing there was a blood-red saber. His head buzzed and his hair stood on end. His energy circulated within him as he prepared to dodge. Too late. An icy voice rang out behind the half-step king. A hand ruthlessly tore through his back and out his chest. That scale-covered hand was dripping with blood, as well as some broken bits of organs. The half-step king couldn't move. A berserk energy was wreaking havoc over his body, completely sealing all of his power. A flash of comprehension appeared in his eyes. He knew he had been duped. The reason Long Chen had released the two dragons was just to block his spiritual perception. However, the one thing he couldn't understand was how his saber had released an attack on its own, one containing Long Chen's specific aura. Wasn't it said only king items were capable of imitating their owner's aura? You really are despicable. I refuse to accept this dash, roared the half-step king. Long Chen's arm shook. His dragon blood power erupted, blowing apart his enemy's body. At that exact moment, a translucent figure shot out of the exploding body and entered Long Chen's head. Haha, as long as I possess your body, I can return to my peak. Perhaps I can even advance to the king realm. No, not perhaps, definitely. The translucent figure was the half-step king's soul. He specialized in magical arts, so his spiritual strength was powerful. Taking advantage of Long Chen having no defenses, he actually surprised himself at how easily he had entered Long Chen's mind. Long Chen was a peerless genius. Once he possessed him and restarted cultivating, he would definitely be able to surpass his old self. So you've come. A faint voice rang out. Who's there? The half-step king had only just entered Long Chen's mind sea and finally had a chance to look around. Before he could exclaim in shock about how boundless his mind sea was, he saw a broken bell floating in the center. Don't bother with who I am. Putting it the way Long Chen would, we're all very busy. Since you've sent yourself to me, I won't stand on courtesy. After saying this, an irresistible suction force came out of the eastern wasteland bell, pulling the half-step king's soul toward it. No. Who are you? Release me. No matter how the half-step king struggled, his soul still ended up being sucked into the eastern wasteland bell. In truth, his little scheme was unable to escape Long Chen. But Long Chen knew the eastern wasteland bell needed the souls of experts. For this idiot to send himself into his mind sea was like meat jumping into his mouth. The eastern wasteland bell directly sucked him up. After killing his half-step king opponent, he grabbed his spatial ring and shot toward Ouyang Chuyu's side. The other half-step king was completely suppressing her with his higher cultivation base. Ouyang Chuyu wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. The sudden reversal of Long Chen's battle shocked him. That other half-step king was truly lacking at close-range combat. If it had been him, Long Chen's attack would have been sensed by him and he wouldn't have fallen for it. Double Dragon Destruction. As soon as Long Chen appeared, he unleashed his strongest attack. Umph! The half-step king snorted, and the ancient tower in front of him rapidly grew. He actually ended up hiding himself within the tower. Boom! The two dragons struck the tower, and the half-step king's expression suddenly changed. As the master of the bone tower, he immediately sensed something was off. Long Chen's lightning dragon possessed a power that was extremely damaging to his tower. This one attack had exhausted a third of the tower's energy. Bastard, I'll go all out against you. The half-step king was infuriated. Long Chen's lightning dragon was too terrifying, and it restrained his corrupt weapon. If he continued like this, just a few more moves from Long Chen would be enough to cripple his bone tower. Corrupt weapons were essentially all dark and evil existences. They were innately suppressed by Thunder Force. And Long Chen's Thunder Force came from Tribulation Lightning. It was a supreme yang existence, and it also contained a destructive will. Even his king item wasn't able to handle it. The bone tower began to shine and rapidly revolve. Black chi circulated within, and a terrifying aura erupted from it. Not good. Meng Chi. Quick. Long Chen's expression changed. Boom. The black chi within the tower suddenly exploded. The wailing of millions of life forms filled the air, and a black ripple spread in every direction. The heaven-devouring ghost chi wave. The half-step king seemed to have become mad. This terrifying attack was causing space to crumble. The sound of a drum rang out. A huge drum appeared in front of Meng Chi and the others. Long Chen, shouted Tang Wan'er upon seeing that he didn't have a king item to protect himself. Boom. The black wave flattened the entire minor world. Wherever the black wave went, the ground was flattened. This was a world-destroying power. Mountains crumbled in front of it. Long Chen held his two arms in front of him to block. He knew this old ghost had despaired. No longer caring about his corrupt path's elite disciples, he chose to activate this king item's power. Although a half-step king was unable to truly control a king item, they were still able to activate a portion of it. Just that little portion was enough to destroy this minor world. Long Chen felt like a shooting star had crashed into him. He could clearly hear the sound of his bones breaking from each part of his body. He shot back. Because he had been so close, Long Chen received the greatest impact. He almost fainted. As Long Chen was sent flying, the black wave didn't slow down at all because of his existence. The surrounding mountains were blown apart and buildings were razed. The corrupt path's stronghold that had existed for countless years had been instantly destroyed. At the same time, the ripples spread toward everyone else. Meng Chi's earth dragon suddenly opened its mouth and breathed in. A powerful suction force brought all the dragon blood warriors into its mouth. After that, the earth dragon scuttled away and charged into the ground. It had only just snuck its way into a hole when that ripple struck. The red-eye sacred blood phoenix had long since flown away. It was carrying the sea expansion elders in its mouth. But even with its speed, it was caught by the black wave and sent flying. Long Chen vomited blood. He felt like every bone in his body had shattered. He hastily circulated the primal chaos bead to heal. However, he found that as his physical body grew stronger, the amount of life energy required to heal also grew. After advancing to sea expansion, the primal chaos space had grown by 10 times. It was now 30,000 miles wide and could be considered its own world. That huge space was filled with the spirit world's huge trees. Despite how much life energy they contained, their effect was no longer as amazing as before. He knew that this was the result of the dragon blood body tempering art. Back when he hadn't refined the dragon blood, he could have healed almost instantly. Now, his healing was much slower. But even if it was slow, it was hundreds of times greater than medicinal pills. In just a few breaths, the pain stopped, and his broken bones began to reconnect. He should be fully recovered in about 2 hours. That was already a miraculous effect. But to Long Chen, who was used to instant recovery, it was too slow. Long Chen, are you all right? Meng Chi, Ouyang Chuyu, and the others all rushed over. Ouyang Chuyu was apologetic, but this attack had come too suddenly for her to protect him. Fortunately, he was still alive. I'm fine, said Long Chen. The ground split open and 3 huge figures crawled out of the ground. They were the 3 earth dragons. Meng Chi's earth dragon opened its mouth. The dragon blood warriors charged out. Even with the earth dragon protecting them, they had still been heavily injured. Fortunately, they had all survived. In the distance, the red-eye sacred blood phoenix was also fine. By the time it had been struck, it had been far away enough, and it didn't receive any substantial injuries. Only now did everyone have a chance to appraise their surroundings. The unending mountain range and buildings had been completely destroyed. Everything within tens of thousands of miles was destroyed. The corrupt paths experts didn't even have corpses remaining. Not even one of the foundation forging experts had survived. It could be seen just how terrifying the attack of a king item was. Bastards, you didn't die? Just wait for the corrupt path's bloody revenge, roared the half-step king with exasperation. He had never expected that after exhausting all his spiritual yuan to activate a king item, he would still be unable to kill any of them. Instead, all he had wrought was killing his own elites. His face was green. The half-step king suddenly activated the bone tower. Its runes began to revolve and space shook. He was planning on breaking through space and leaving. "Let's not wait. We're all busy, so let's settle things now," said Long Chen. The ground beneath the bone tower suddenly split apart, and a huge lightning dragon flew out. It coiled around the bone tower. At the same time, up in the sky, flame chains shot down, forming a huge net that wrapped the bone tower. The half-step king's expression completely changed. When the bone tower had unleashed its attack, Long Chen had hesitated, but he had still decided to leave the two dragons as trump cards. Lei Long and Hua Long had been hidden by him in the ground. At the bottom of the bone tower was a gap. Its terrifying attack had been the weakest directly below it, which had allowed the two dragons to survive. To set this up, Long Chen had given up on using the two dragons to block for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken such heavy injuries. That had been a gamble, but now the gamble paid off. Lei Long had instantly coiled around it, and then Long Chen had activated the Raging Flame Prison. Chanting filled the air as Long Chen used the Nirvana scripture. The earth flame's power multiplied with the support of it. Bastard! The half-step king had originally been using the last bit of his power to use the bone tower to break the void and teleport away. But first, the lightning dragon had entangled it, drawing out the amount of time required. Then by the time he could try it again, the space around him had been completely locked by the flame chains. The spatial energy here had been thrown into disorder, making it so there was no way for him to leave. The bone tower was wrapped by lightning and flame. The half-step king couldn't even leave. Moreover, the bone tower's last bit of power was being exterminated by the lightning. Now he was just a chicken in a cage. "Bastards, if you have any guts, then you'll release me. We'll have a fair fight," roared the half-step king. "Idiot, did your brain rot from old age? A fair fight? You are a half-step king using a king item. You were trapped by my boss, an early sea expansion expert. You still have the face to ask for a fair fight? If my boss was the same realm as you, then even without a king item, he would kill you with a single fart," sneered Guoran. Hearing that, everyone couldn't help but crack a smile. The tense atmosphere had been ruined by his cursing. "Bullshit. I don't believe you," roared the half-step king. Then you're right. My own farts are definitely not as mighty as bosses." Guoran shrugged helplessly. Flames began to soar, and Lei Long retreated from the tower. Its sinister energy had been wiped away by it, and even its item spirit had been killed. Lei Long could already leave in victory. The bone tower was basically just an empty shell. It had the body of a king item but not the power. It was essentially a sturdy cage. The bone tower was still made of king item material, so the earth flame wasn't able to destroy it. However, the person inside wasn't able to bear those flames. Due to activating his king item, he had exhausted his spiritual yuan. Right now, he had no more energy. Just his physical body was not enough to resist these flames. He was the opposite of that tall and skinny half-step king. He was short and stout. Being broiled by these flames, oil began to pour out of him. A charred scent filled the air. "Quick, add the hot pepper. The cumin and other powders have all been prepared. We'll have some barbecue to eat," cried Guoran excitedly upon seeing that practically godlike half-step king being turned into his current state. By following Long Chen, Guoran had seen many sights that others couldn't believe. Long Chen was always pushing the boundaries of human imagination. Guoran involuntarily gulped down his saliva. Just looking at his current manner gave people goosebumps. For him to find this kind of scene appetizing, a sensation of nausea washed over everyone. "Guoran, don't say such a thing. It's disgusting." Tang Wana was the first to shout at him. "I was just talking. Don't treat it so seriously. Furthermore, barbecue requires half fat and half meat to be perfect. But this fatty is all fat, so the mouth-feel dash." Tang Wana kicked Guoran flying, shutting him up. This bastard was actually commenting like he was a professional cook. At first, everyone was just a bit disgusted, but as Guoran talked more and adding on the burning scent in the air, they felt like their stomachs were heaving. Bastards, just you wait. You've provoked the entire corrupt path and will suffer our punishment. We'll return my pain 1,000 times to you. Cursed the half-step king. He was helpless to do anything else. He was trapped within the tower, and the flames outside made it so he couldn't leave. He could only obediently wait for death inside. Death by fire was an annoying death. Hey, old ghost, don't be so rude. My boss is kindly helping you lose weight, but instead of thanking him, you're cursing him? Guoran walked over behind Long Chen and cursed the half-step king. This place was safer, no one could kick him. Only now did everyone see that the half-step king truly had lost quite a bit of weight. The effect of these flames was truly amazing. Seeing everyone curiously staring at him and nodding, as if approving of Guoran's words, the half-step king vomited a mouthful of blood. The vomited blood was immediately incinerated by the flames. The half-step king was unable to stop the constant roasting of the earth flame, and his body was constantly quivering. Underworld soul bind. Long Chen cast Meng Qi a glance, and she immediately understood. Her spiritual strength erupted, and taking advantage of the half-step king's incredibly weak state, she instantly took control over his soul. The flames scattered, and the half-step king was caught in Long Chen's grasp. With a kick to his dantian, Long Chen crippled his cultivation base. He smiled toward Ouyang Chu. Capturing one of the corrupt path's top experts should be worth quite a bit of resources, right? So the half-step king, when saying bullshit, I don't believe you, really says you're farting, I don't believe you. And in this case, you're farting would mean you're spouting nonsense. Honestly, it just doesn't translate well and it's not very important. Looking at the crippled, half-dead half-step king, Ouyang Chuyu didn't know what to say for a long time. Outside this stronghold, Ouyang Chuyu had captured a late Foundation forging expert alive. That was to give an explanation to the head sect and the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path. But now, Long Chen had caught a half-step king alive. That was a shocking achievement, one that would most likely cause the Xiantiandao sect's prestige to rise to an unprecedented level. Not only can it be exchanged for quite a bit of things, but it'll also allow our Eastern Wasteland's branch sect to vent a bit in front of the head sect, said Ouyang Chuyu gratefully. The bone tower was also put away by Ouyang Chuyu. Although it was essentially broken, it was a sign of their battle spoils. It was a valuable memento. At this moment, the Dragonblood warriors had also arrived beside Long Chen. They were incredibly excited, their blood still boiling from the fight. From their expressions, it seemed that they longed to continue fighting. Ouyang Chuyu and the other Sea Expansion elders were also excitedly examining the blood-soaked Dragonblood warriors. They were unable to stay calm. Over 300 rank 3 Celestials, each of them with limitless potential. Although they had only just advanced to Sea Expansion and couldn't even count as having reached the early stage, they were already capable of dominating the Sea Expansion realm. Then once they grew, just how terrifying would this group become? Furthermore, there were also people like Meng Qi, Tang Wana, and the others who were rank 4 Celestials and capable of killing Foundation forging experts. As for Wild, although they couldn't tell his cultivation base and they knew he wasn't a Celestial, his power was still at the peak of everyone. It was just that right now Wild was on the ground, crazily devouring food. Moreover, this terrifying group was led by a supreme monster, Long Chen. Even Ouyang Chuyu's heart pounded. The current Dragonblood Legion had finally revealed their brilliance. It was clear that Long Chen had definitely encountered some kind of miracle within the immemorial path to create such an unrivaled army. Let's leave. Ouyang Chuyu brought everyone back to the spatial portal. Forming a hand seal, the heaven-catching drum boomed. People felt like their bodies were being stretched taut. Ah, so Sect Master, you were long since prepared from the start. Guoran was amazed. He had just been wondering about how they were supposed to leave this sealed world. Do you think I'm like you lot and never think of the consequences? Since I dared to come in, I naturally can leave whenever I want, said Ouyang Chuyu, rolling her eyes. Why did it seem like these brats were looking down on her? The heaven-catching drum released countless runes that wrapped around everyone. They felt space twisting, and they found themselves on the battlefield where they had entered. They've come out. Sect Master, Monastery Heads, Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen, you've all come out alive. The Shintian Dao sect's disciples and elders all cheered. Some even wept tears of joy. Before they had left, they had all been prepared for them to be annihilated. They had thought they would never see these people again. But now they saw that they weren't even one number less than when they had entered. However, they were all soaked in blood, so they had definitely undergone an intense battle. Everyone cheered. The Sea Expansion elders couldn't help but feel ashamed. Yes, they were covered in blood, but it wasn't their enemy's blood. It was their own blood. Despite the Red Eye's Sacred Blood Phoenix's protection, they had still been injured by the final attack. Several of them were monastery heads, and their disciples flocked toward them, cheering. In their hearts, their monastery heads were true heroes. Everyone, thank you all for your support. The Shintian Dao sect will remember this favor forever, said Ouyang Chuyu solemnly to the various sect leaders that had come to assist them. Originally, the Shintian Dao sect had dozens of smaller powers under them. But once the Shintian Dao sect had been attacked and Ouyang Chuyu had tried to gather them, they had evaded every which way, refusing to help. Only 7 sects had come to their aid. Although they were mostly useless, they had still gone all out to assist them. Only at this time was it possible to see who was a real friend. One of those sect leaders shook his head. Even hundreds of years ago, our Pure Wind Gate was under the Shintian Dao sect's protection. The favor you have given is impossible for us to repay. That's right. When the Remote Heaven Gang was suppressing us and trying to devour us, it was the Shintian Dao sect that helped us survive. For us to come here is something we simply had to do. There are some idiots that forget other people's kindness. If it hadn't been for the Shintian Dao sect, they would have long since been devoured by others, said another sect leader. Before coming, they had alerted the other sects like them. But those other sects had refused to come, instead telling them not to send themselves to their deaths, saying something about how the Shintian Dao sect was heavily injured and how it would definitely decline. And that they had to stand independent now to avoid being dragged down with them. At the same time as they had received the request for aid, they had received a threat from the Remote Heaven Gang. Although they hadn't said anything explicitly, it was clear that the Remote Heaven Gang wanted to dominate the Eastern Wasteland on their own. Helping the Shintian Dao sect was becoming enemies with the Remote Heaven Gang. I even suspect that the Corrupt Path's sneak attack was instigated by the Remote Heaven Gang. The timing is too coincidental. Teach, what are you coughing about? You also know this. So what if there isn't proof? There's a 90% chance this matter is related to the Remote Heaven Gang, cursed one of the smaller sect leaders. He was correct. The sneak attack had been too sudden and fierce. And the timing was extremely coincidental. If Ouyang Chuyu had returned according to her original plans, then by the time she would have returned, the Shintian Dao sect would have been destroyed. But perhaps it was that the Shintian Dao sect's karmic luck hadn't run out yet. She had returned just in time to save the sect from destruction. Furthermore, on the Corrupt Path's way to the Shintian Dao sect, there were many smaller sections. But they hadn't been implicated at all. Their targets had clearly been the Shintian Dao sect and their super monasteries. However, if you wanted to say something, you had to have proof. That was why someone else had coughed to remind him that he shouldn't say such things. But that person didn't care. Whether or not they colluded has no relevance for us. Ouyang Chuyu shook her head. The Remote Heaven Gang was an enormous power, and they had many subordinate powers. As for the Shintian Dao sect, they were heavily injured. The Remote Heaven Gang would definitely take advantage of this time to make threats and promises to neutral powers to bring them to their side. Traitors had appeared even amongst the sects following the Shintian Dao sect. It was all too easy for them to bring over more powers that had originally been neutral in their conflict. Sect Master, I'm planning on leaving the Shintian Dao sect with my brothers, said Long Chen suddenly. What? Ouyang Chuyu couldn't believe her ears. Everyone else was also startled, including the Dragon Blood Legion. Only Meng Qi, Guo ran, and the others were calm. They had long since guessed this result. Although it's a bit sudden, I hope you can accept disciples' resignation, said Long Chen. Give me a reason. Ouyang Chuyu's expression was gloomy. Her eyes were misty. She couldn't figure out why Long Chen would be this merciless. Or was it that he looked down on the Shintiandao sect? Many things happened in the immemorial path this time. I've gradually begun to understand a certain principle. The struggles of the martial path are simply cruel. Previously, I had many misgivings because of the people by my side. I endured things and restrained myself. But all I got in return was unending schemes and attempts to take my life. So this time, I've decided not to restrain myself. I want to completely expose my fangs. I will no longer have any misgivings about my opponent's statuses, their backgrounds, or their power. To cultivate is to put one's life on the line. Once a person loses that courage, the people by their side will disappear one by one. So this time, I'm planning on putting my life on the line along with all my brothers. Long Chen looked at the Dragonblood warriors. He solemnly said, all of them are my hot-blooded brothers. Our hearts are connected, and if I put my life on the line, I know all of them will do the same without hesitation. But I don't want to implicate you and the Shintiandao sect. Ouyang Chuyu raged, what nonsense are you talking about? Implicating us? You are my disciple, and we are one family. Don't you feel like your words are very heartless? Furthermore, everything's already over. We've exterminated one of the corrupt path's two forces. They temporarily won't be able to counterattack. What are you so worried about? A bitter smile appeared on Long Chen's face. Sect Master, you're thinking too simply. This attack against the corrupt path was just the first step of my plan for vengeance. Just the first step? Everyone was startled. Crippling and killing 2 half-step kings and dozens of foundation forging experts, as well as hundreds of thousands of elite disciples, was just a start? I don't care what your reason is. My Shintiandao sect's disciples are not permitted to leave whenever they want. Ouyang Chuyu grabbed Long Chen's arm. Furthermore, you promised me that if someone bullied me, you'd protect me. Could it be you've grown up and your words no longer count? Long Chen's heart warmed slightly. But he guiltily said, I also don't want to leave the Shintiandao sect. After all, the Shintiandao sect is my home. However, if I don't leave, it will likely cause the entire Shintiandao sect to be destroyed. If it's destroyed, then it's destroyed. Since we dared to go all out with you once, we'll dare to do it again. Long Chen, you are not allowed to leave the Shintiandao sect. You are the pride of the Shintiandao sect and our moral pillar, begged one of the monastery heads. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, don't leave. We're willing to follow you into life or death. What startled Long Chen was that unfamiliar faces began to passionately shout one by one, their voices ringing throughout the sky. Do you see? You're the one who brought the Shintiandao sect's conviction onto the right path. You can't leave. Ouyang Chuyu smiled at the passionate Shintiandao sect disciples. Long Chen's expression was complicated. Seeing these passionate disciples looking at him with worship, his heart was torn. Long Chen, you don't need to have misgivings about us. We will forever stand by your side. Let's go back to the sect. Afraid that Long Chen would back out, Ouyang Chuyu struck while the iron was hot. She directly pulled Long Chen in the direction of the Shintiandao sect. Long Chen was helpless. If he left the Shintiandao sect at this time, he would hurt too many people. He once more became a bit lost. Their grand army returned to the Shintiandao sect. When they arrived, seeing the packed people within the sect, Ouyang Chuyu's expression changed. Ouyang Chuyu, hand over Long Chen, or we'll raze the Shintiandao sect to the ground. A furious roar rang out from within the Shintiandao sect. Thousands of experts had occupied the Shintiandao sect now. Those people all possessed powerful auras, and they didn't bother concealing their killing intent at all. The ancient races. Ouyang Chuyu was startled. She hadn't expected that their greeters wouldn't be their disciples, but thousands of ancient race experts instead. These people were all powerful experts from the various large ancient races. They had all reached foundation forging at least, and there were over 10 of them with exceptionally powerful auras. They were half-step kings. That furious roar had come from an ancient race elder with 2 golden wings on his back. The ancient races have always been neutral. For you to suddenly attack my Xintian Dao sect, do you think we're an easy target? Raged Ouyang Chuyu. This was absolutely intolerable. Over 10 half-step kings had led thousands of foundation forging experts to occupy the Xintian Dao sect. That was an absolute insult. The ancient races usually lived in seclusion, rarely interacting with the rest of the world. Everyone knew that the ancient races were too powerful to provoke. But now they saw that the rumors of their power didn't do them justice. The aura of over 10 half-step kings and thousands of foundation forging experts made it hard for them to breathe. Our ancient races have always minded our own business when it came to the Xintian Dao sect. However, you ended up giving birth to a brute who slaughtered masses of our disciples. Today, if you don't hand over Long Chen and the other main offenders, the 800 allied ancient races will destroy your Xintian Dao sect, shouted the winged elder. That elder was precisely the patriarch of the feather race. He was a half-step king and also one of the leaders of the ancient races. Yu Changhao was the descendant he looked the most favorably upon. He was the feather race's hope of soaring. When he had heard that he had been killed, he had coughed up a mouthful of blood. When the ancient race disciples that escaped the immemorial path reported what had happened, all the ancient races had gone mad. Over 90% of their elite disciples had been killed. As for their peak experts, they had all been slaughtered. Hearing the news that so many of them had advanced to rank 4 celestials but had still been killed drove them mad. They had charged their way into the Xintian Dao sect, imprisoning all their disciples and waiting for Ouyang Chuyu to return. Now that she had, they immediately set down their conditions. Either hand over Long Chen, or have the Xintian Dao sect destroyed. They weren't bragging. 16 half-step kings and thousands of foundation forging experts could be considered the full power of the ancient races. They didn't just want to kill Long Chen, they wanted to express their fury and let the entire eastern wasteland know that whoever dared to anger the ancient races would pay a terrible price. If the Xintian Dao sect didn't have the head sect backing it, they would have long since killed all their disciples and destroyed the sect. Then let me see just how you will destroy the Xintian Dao sect. If you destroy my sect today, then the head sect's people will arrive and pull you up by the roots. Do you want to come and try it? Sneered Ouyang Chuyu. For him to arrogantly say he would destroy the Xintian Dao sect was completely intolerable. Ouyang Chuyu didn't believe he really would dare to destroy her sect. But it was true that he did have that power. You are intentionally angering me, he roared. It's you that's being completely unreasonable. Do your actions match the dignity my Xintian Dao sect deserves? Ouyang Chuyu roared back. She pointed to the statue at the center of the plaza. That was the mark of the Xintian Dao sect. It had actually been half destroyed by the ancient races. We're unreasonable? Bullshit. That brute you raised colluded with the aboriginals to slaughter ancient race disciples? Just how do you plan on paying that debt? Roared an elder with a claw-like hand. He was from the Great Eagle race and was also a half-step king. What he was most furious about was that none of his Great Eagle race's disciples had returned alive. Hearing this, Ouyang Chuyu came to a sudden comprehension about why Long Chen would want to leave the Xintian Dao sect. However, she had long since been prepared and she still sneered, "So what? The struggle of the martial path dictates that life and death are up to fate. Are your ancient races allowed to kill others for their treasures while others can't resist?" Although she didn't know the whole story, she was able to guess what had happened based on how arrogant the ancient races were and how they didn't place the human race in their eyes. They viewed humans as prey. However, she hadn't expected Long Chen to have been so vicious. It seemed he had killed a truly massive amount of ancient race disciples. But Ouyang Chuyu threw caution to the wind. She felt that even if she had to die, she couldn't give such a peerless genius to them. Long Chen was the pride of the Xintian Dao sect's Eastern Wasteland branch. You are courting death like this, raged the Feather Race's half-step king. Don't spout so much bullshit. The conflict between us has nothing to do with the ordinary disciples. They are innocent, So release them, said Long Chen. Brute, I will tear you apart piece by piece, stripping you of your skin, tearing out your muscles, crushing your bones. That's a matter for later. First, release the innocent people, said Long Chen. The Feather Race's half-step king's fury soared. However, he still maintained a bit of rationality, and he waved his hand. A foundation forging expert sneered, "We'll give you this group of trash. The human race really likes wasting food on garbage." A bag appeared in his hand. It was unknown what kind of hide it was made of, but it released powerful fluctuations. He opened it, and a group of people tumbled out. That bag was an extremely rare spatial item. The disciples guarding the Xintian Dao sect all tumbled out. Bastard! Seeing those disciples, the Xintian Dao sect's experts' eyes almost tore out of their sockets, and they clenched their teeth so hard that they creaked. Those disciples had needles impaling their bodies all over. They were covered in blood, and their throats were shackled like they were livestock. Their shackles were all connected by chains. Inferior human race, we should treat you just like animals. All you are is a group of a blood-colored light flew over. That person's sneer was cut short as he exploded. Fuck, you damn animals. After killing that ancient race expert, Long Chen's killing intent didn't weaken. He saw Shui Wuhan's figure amongst the crowd. Little brute, you dare? Kill him. The ancient race experts had originally been on the verge of going berserk, and Long Chen's attack pushed them over the edge. They all erupted with powerful auras and charged at Long Chen. The sound of a drum rang out, and those attackers were knocked back by a terrifying force. Ouyang Qiuyu stood in the sky, the heaven-catching drum above her. She icily glared at the ancient race experts. The rest of the Xintian Dao sect's forces hastily went up and removed the shackles, rescuing those disciples who had been tortured into an incredibly weak state. Long Chen helped out Shui Wuhan, pain in his eyes. Shui Wuhan sighed. Big sister is getting more and more useless. It's not your fault. These brutes are too strong. Just rest for now. In a bit, you'll see how I get revenge for you. Long Chen had Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er support Shui Wuhan. Just now, his fury had erupted, but now, just as quickly, he calmed back down. He looked at these overbearing ancient race experts. Ouyang Qiuyu, are you trying to force us? That Feather Race's half-step king took out an ancient bow, which released terrifying fluctuations. Even without attacking, it was obvious it was a king item. Rumbling filled the air as the other half-step kings also took out king items. 17 king items had now appeared. Even before they released their powers, they caused space to twist around them. Once they were activated, the Xintian Dao sect would be blown to bits. I would rather shatter as jade than stay whole as a roof tile. Ouyang Qiuyu icily stared at the half-step kings, refusing to concede a single step. Even facing 16 king items, her expression was determined. Shatter as jade. Shatter as jade. Shatter as jade. The Xintian Dao sect's disciples were affected by Ouyang Qiuyu's display. They all roared as their fear at the king item's power disappeared. Their blood boiled. In fact, they even seemed a bit crazy. The ancient races were absolutely intolerable. They had humiliated the disciples of their sect. Under the pressure of powerful enemies, the Xintian Dao sect displayed an unprecedented cohesiveness. This pressure brought out their determination. Sect Master, activate the king item. We'll fight to the death with these bastards, roared the Xintian Dao sect's disciples. If it weren't for the power difference, they would have already charged forward. All they hoped was for Ouyang Qiuyu to activate her king item and launch her most powerful attack. Although they knew that after this attack, other than the half-step kings, practically no one else would be able to survive, they were willing to exchange their lives for their enemies. Since you're so foolish, then you can die. I don't believe that the Xintian Dao sect will truly dare to become enemies with the millions of ancient races in this world. Diance. The Feather Race's half-step king's face twisted in savagery. He actually activated his bow. The wind and clouds changed color. Space trembled as if it was about to crumble. Idiots, the only ones to die will be you. Another ancient race's half-step king sneered and took out an ancient diagram. It released runes that protected all the foundation forging experts. This was clearly a protective king item that could prevent their people from being injured. Die, you inferior ants. The other half-step kings also activated their king items. Over 10 attacks shot toward Ouyang Chuyu. Senior Eastern Wasteland Bell, exterminate them for me, said Long Chen. Space split open as a broken bell appeared in the air. It was the Eastern Wasteland Bell's true body. Countless runes circulated around it, and images appeared on the bell's surface. It was possible to see mountains, plains, birds, fish, and beasts. Those were scenes thriving with vitality. It was like the Eastern Wasteland Bell was its own world. As soon as it appeared, heaven and earth changed color. The world became still. Long Chen realized that no one was capable of moving. Even the king item's attacks launching through the air came to a stop. Long Chen, have you thought this through? This karma is not so easy to bear, warned the Eastern Wasteland Bell as solemnly as possible. Whatever karma arises because of this, I will bear it. From the moment little Snow died, I swore I wouldn't restrain myself. I will put my life on the line against my enemies, and if I can give up my life, what else is there to worry about? Long Chen stared at the ancient race statues in front of him. Seeing their sinister, cruel smiles, they seemed especially ugly now. All right then. The Eastern Wasteland Bell stopped revolving. Divine light erupted. Space-time returned to normal. Everyone now saw the Eastern Wasteland Bell in the sky releasing boundless pressure. They didn't even know what had happened. This bell had just appeared out of nowhere and was releasing a blinding light. What startled Long Chen was that the divine light the Eastern Wasteland Bell released destroyed all the king items held by the ancient races. Those king items disintegrated along with their masters. 16 half-step kings and 16 king items were destroyed by this divine light. It destroyed anything it met. Its power was incomparable. But Long Chen was disappointed to see that after the Eastern Wasteland Bell had killed the half-step kings, it retracted its divine light and turned into a ray of light over the horizon, disappearing. It didn't return to his mind. See, our agreement is complete. This time, it can count as half a favor. Adding on blocking an attack for you in the immemorial path and sealing Little Snow's soul into his crystal core, it can count as one complete favor. Don't blame me for not helping you kill them all. It was all for your own good. You'll understand in the future. I've accomplished my end of things, and I have my own matters to attend to. Goodbye. These were the Eastern Wasteland Bell's parting words to Long Chen. Everyone was dumbfounded, even Ouyang Chuyu. They couldn't believe their eyes as 16 half-step kings had instantly vanished. That was too shocking. Meng Qi. The first person that received a mental message from Long Chen was Meng Qi. She recovered from her shock and rapidly formed hand seals. Stealthy spiritual strength spread throughout the battlefield. The ancient race experts were all dumbfounded. Still stunned upon seeing all their half-step kings being killed, they didn't sense the spiritual strength. Careful! Someone's scheming against us. Suddenly, one of the ancient race experts with powerful spiritual strength sensed something off. The peak of the soul, dream fall. Meng Qi's spiritual strength erupted. Those ancient race experts were horrified. Their eyelids suddenly became too heavy to hold up. Sleepiness washed over them. They were horrified. If they slept at this time, then they would never wake up again. They all struggled against it. In truth, this soul art contained extremely profound principles. It contained a powerful hypnosis effect. Once a person fell asleep, they would die. The most terrifying thing was that this move could be used silently without powerful spiritual fluctuations. It was even able to hide its fluctuations from protective soul items. If it was used against one person, then even if they had a soul item, they would definitely die. However, for it to be used against thousands of foundation forging experts, it had already displayed its maximum effect. They would only feel a bout of sleepiness for a breath of time. Once they struggled through this one breath, they would escape the soul art. At this moment, Long Chen extended his arms and two streaks of berserk energy shot out. Double dragon destruction. Two dragons twisted around each other, charging through the ancient races. The foundation forging experts didn't have the slightest defense up right now. They were trapped in a daze thanks to Meng Qi, and Long Chen's attack struck them head-on. The foundation forging experts were blown apart by the two dragons. Blood filled the sky as they wreaked havoc. Of the thousands of foundation forging experts, only 300 managed to live thanks to being on the edge of the battlefield. Dragon Blood Legion, kill them all. Don't leave even a single one alive. Long Chen was the first to charge forward. Blood Drinker released a powerful saber image that killed 7 foundation forging experts in one blow. Those 7 really were unlucky. After escaping from the Double Dragon Destruction's rampage, they hadn't even had time to celebrate their luck before being killed. The ancient race experts recovered, but because they had just escaped Meng Qi's terrifying soul art, their heads still weren't in the right state. Tang Wanner's wind blades slashed through their midst. Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, Li Qi, Song Mingyuan, and Guo Ran were leading the rest of the Dragon Blood Legion. They were like hungry wolves, killing them rapidly. The foundation forging experts were horrified. They still didn't even understand what was happening. Their half-step kings had been killed, and now thousands of them had been slain. They couldn't believe their eyes. After escaping from Meng Qi's soul art, they saw only a few of them remaining. They didn't even know if they were still dreaming. It was at that moment that the merciless blade struck. Many of them died without even knowing what had happened. The world had transformed suddenly. Even once they became ghosts, they would still be confused ghosts. "Don't let them escape," shouted Long Chen upon seeing some of the foundation forging experts start fleeing in terror. For huge figures appeared. 3 waves of dragon breath and a ray of divine light blew apart the foundation forging experts that had just fled a few miles. Perhaps a foundation forging expert could block 1 earth dragon's fire breath, but they couldn't block the combined attack of 3 earth dragons and 1 red-eye sacred blood phoenix. They were instantly blown apart. The ones that were fleeing were killed by the magical beasts. The ones still fighting were being hacked to death. Many of them died to the Dragon Blood Warriors' blades. The Dragon Blood Warriors had completely stabilized their realm after that huge battle just now. They were accustomed to their new explosive power. The ordinary Dragon Blood Warriors were rank 3 Celestials, while the squad leaders were all rank 4 Celestials. Most terrifying of all, they had all consumed the 10,000 spirit blood, and they possessed the spirit blood that matched them perfectly. Although it wasn't as dense as Meng Qi and the others, once it was activated, their spirit blood's power was still incomparably terrifying. With this many people activating their spirit blood at the same time, even foundation forging experts couldn't stop them. "Fuck, I didn't even get one, you damn wolves." Some of the Dragon Blood Warriors had moved too slowly and had their paths blocked by their brothers. Our achievements are your achievements too. Oh, this fellow is still alive. I won't fight with you over him. You really are my good brother." That person killed a foundation forging expert that was half dead and bragged, "Who dares to look down on me? I'm a man who has killed a foundation forging expert." Don't act so shameless. Boss killed that many half-step kings, but did he brag at all? Said the other disdainfully. Ouyang Chuyu and the other members of the Shintian Dao sect simply watched this scene, unable to say a word for a long time. Seeing the Dragon Blood Warriors cheerfully talking and joking as they cut down the ancient race experts, they were unable to wrap their heads around this reality. Once all the foundation forging experts had been killed, the Dragon Blood Warriors began cleaning up the battlefield. Guo Ran was going around, gathering the broken pieces of the king items. His eyes had turned blue with greed. These king item fragments were the treasures he needed the most at this moment. "Long Chen, this time, you really caused a huge calamity." Ouyang Chuyu finally recovered from her shock. She sighed. "However, it's fine. No matter how big of a calamity you cause, I will help you bear it." "The truth is," said Long Chen. "There's no need to say anything. I finally understand why you would kill so many of those ancient race bastards in the immemorial path. If I was still my young self, I'd also kill them all. But this is also good. After so many years, I, Ouyang Chuyu, can finally taste the flavor of causing trouble. Ouyang Chuyu smiled as if she was returning to the springtime of her youth. The battle was over and the spoils were gathered. The Xintian Dao sect's disciples silently looked at Long Chen with worship and passion. Long Chen was amazing. What do you plan on doing now? Asked Ouyang Chuyu. She couldn't figure out what Long Chen was thinking. The matter of the corrupt path and ancient races has been handled. Now it should be the turn of the righteous path. Back then, I intentionally let Ji Changkong off just to make this matter livelier. Just killing him isn't enough to resolve my hatred. I needed an excuse to destroy the entire Remote Heaven Gang, said Long Chen. Then are we going to kill our way to the Remote Heaven Gang now? Asked Ouyang Chuyu. No. I need to give them some time to gather all their people and gather all the power of the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path. I need to wait until they smear my name and condemn me, said Long Chen indifferently. Isn't that a bit too vicious? Do you know how large the Remote Heaven Gang is? With their power, they can gather practically all the righteous path's experts, as well as all their disciples, said Ouyang Chuyu. So what? Retorted Long Chen. Ouyang Chuyu's scalp turned numb. Some people are just being used by the Remote Heaven Gang and don't know the truth. They're innocent, is that right? If they don't know the truth, they can indiscriminately kill others without fault? Once they kill others and learn the truth, they can just say, sorry I didn't know, and the matter is settled? There are no innocent people in this world. Do those ignorant people not have brains? In any case, I don't care. No matter how many the Remote Heaven Gang gathers to handle me, they're all my enemies, and I'll kill them all. Sectmaster, if you have any misgivings, you don't have to participate in this matter, said Long Chen. What nonsense! Am I someone who just gives up halfway? If you want to kill them, then Big Sister will accompany you, said Ouyang Chuyu. Long Chen smiled slightly. Looking at the slightly insulted Ouyang Chuyu, he felt a burst of warmth. This world still had many people worthy of trust. If only I had known how monstrous the Eastern Wasteland Bell was before. I should have planned things out properly. Long Chen had a face of regret as he sat in a private room. Who would have thought that the broken, practically crumbling apart Eastern Wasteland Bell would be so terrifying? It killed half-step kings without the slightest effort, and king items were nothing more than toys to it. The Eastern Wasteland Bell was incredibly powerful. Right now, his strongest trump card had disappeared, but he still hadn't gotten his revenge on Ji Changkong. He couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. If only he could have drawn over the ancient races and the Remote Heaven Gang together, he could have had the Eastern Wasteland Bell handle them all at the same time. But regret had no use. The Eastern Wasteland Bell had already left. He didn't even know if he would ever see it again. Furthermore, there was something else that made him jittery. When he had advanced to see expansion, that mysterious voice hadn't appeared. The pill formula for the 5th star of the 9-star Hegemon body art also hadn't appeared. Could it be that the 5th star required him to reach foundation forging first? The 9-star Hegemon body art was completely different from the other cultivation techniques he knew of. He couldn't cultivate like others, making him feel unsure of what he was supposed to do. He still knew too little about the 9-star Hegemon body art. The fortunate thing was that other than the 9-star Hegemon body art, he also had the Dragon Blood body tempering art. The green dragon battle armor that he could summon was now his strongest trump card. Long Chen. Suddenly, the stone door to his room was pushed open. Ouyang Chuyu walked in and sat in front of him. Is there any news? Asked Long Chen. The entire Eastern Wasteland is in upheaval, sighed Ouyang Chuyu. How could it not be? The ancient races had moved out in full force to suppress the Xintian Dao sect. But as a result, they had been annihilated. In truth, back then, the ancient races had intentionally drawn other people's attention when they had moved out. Their excursion had been supposed to be a display of their might. Countless people had been around and had activated photographic jades so that they could record the site of the Xintian Dao sect being destroyed. However, they had never imagined that what they would record was something even more shocking than the destruction of the Xintian Dao sect. The entire eastern wasteland had been thrown into a state of panic, especially those smaller powers of the Xiantiandao sect that had sided with the remote Heaven Gang. Each day, they had lived in fear that the Xiantiandao sect would find them to settle the bill. The most fearful one would have to be the remote Heaven Gang. Those who had committed shameful deeds were always the most terrified. Right now, the remote Heaven Gang was like an overturned nest of ants. They were doing everything they could to draw in other powers. It was unknown what methods they were using. As Long Chen's vicious methods shook the eastern wasteland, the remote Heaven Gang managed to gather the majority of the powers within the eastern wasteland. Long Chen, do you really have the confidence? Ouyang Chuyu was worried. Although she didn't know the eastern wasteland bell's origin and she hadn't asked, it was clear that the eastern wasteland bell had left after that one attack. She had seen that clearly. The eastern wasteland bell's power had surpassed her understanding. But she knew such a divine weapon wasn't something that would accept someone like Long Chen as a master. Otherwise, it would be under his control now. It was obvious from its departure that it had only agreed to help Long Chen once. That was why Ouyang Chuyu was worried. Long Chen shook his head. Nope. My strongest trump card is gone. Then why don't we slow things down and just wait a bit, advised Ouyang Chuyu. Long Chen was too ruthless. She had already alerted the head sect about this matter using a special spiritual message. They would quickly send experts to handle this matter. In Ouyang Chuyu's opinion, the smartest decision was to wait for the head sect's experts to arrive. After all, Long Chen had used up his trump card. If the remote Heaven Gang had some unknown trump cards, it would be over for them. I understand. Sect Master Dash, call me Big Sister, said Ouyang Chuyu. All right, Big Sister. I understand what you're saying, but it's useless. Long Chen shook his head. What is useless? I don't understand. Long Chen sighed. In truth, during the immemorial path, I was always careful and tried not to make enemies or provoke anyone who didn't provoke me. I did my best to protect my people. But when the time came, I was still surrounded by enemies. I was cautious, I was reserved, but I still caused little Snow to die. This time, I've finally seen through who my true enemy is. It is these damn heavens. No matter how I scheme, I can't out-scheme the heavens. So now I can't be bothered to scheme, nor do I care about other people's schemes. I want to find my original mental state. I no longer trust in using smarts to handle my problems. I will only trust my power. I need to find my old self, that young, impetuous, and a bit foolish self that was full of hot blood. I have no schemes. I will simply bring my brothers to slaughter our enemies. If we encounter a mountain, we'll split it. If we encounter a river, it will part for us. And if our lives aren't hardy enough to survive, then we can all die together. 18 years later, we'll have reincarnated and gathered back together, once more rising up to battle our enemies. Long Chen's eyes shone with a determined light. He found that as his cultivation base increased, he had begun to lose his old self. If he had been vicious enough in the beginning, if he had paid any price to kill his opponents as soon as he had encountered them, who would still dare to provoke him? Right now, what he needed to be was a madman, a bloodthirsty, merciless man. He would make all his enemies terrified of him, making it so no one dared to form the slightest bit of hostility against him. He was extremely calm now. He no longer bothered scheming against his opponent's trump cards. He couldn't out-scheme the heavens, so there was no point. His choice was to use the simplest, most direct method: fight with his life on the line. Little Snow's death had made him clearly see the essence of cultivation. All resources and opportunities were gained through killing and fighting. Since he had stepped onto the cultivation path, he couldn't be kind or soft. That would cause his own death. If it only caused his own death, then fine. But foolish kindness would also cause his people's deaths as well. That was the most foolish part of it. Big Sister, you don't have to go with me. I dash. In truth, this isn't just for you. These 1,000 years of life were like a dream. I've seen people be born, mature, grow old, and die. I've seen joy, and I've seen sadness. I've seen twisted faces and ugly affairs. I've experienced much. Big Sister, Are you tired of living? Long Chen was startled. Brat, I'm living quite happily. How could I want to die? Ouyang Chuyu glared at him. Then that's good. After all, I don't have big sister's experience. Are you saying I'm old? Ouyang Chuyu's glare became even more vicious. No, definitely not. Long Chen flapped his hand. If not, then shut your mouth. You really are becoming more and more irritating. I don't know how you seduced those two beautiful girls. When I say I've experienced a great deal, what I mean is that it's like I've been playing chess for hundreds of years. The chessboard is completely chaotic now. The reason I can only touch the barrier but am unable to become a half-step king is because of this. That's why I'm prepared to go cause some trouble with you. By changing my mentality and viewing my path through another viewpoint, I want to see if I can use that opportunity to become a half-step king, said Ouyang Chuyu. Why just half-step king and not a full king? Asked Long Chen. Ouyang Chuyu sadly shook her head. It's not so easy. My spirit blood isn't pure enough. Half-step king is my limit. So that's what it is. Long Chen came to a sudden comprehension of why all those rank 4 celestials would submit to Shui Yu, Yu Changhao, and the others. It was all because of the purity of their spirit blood. Two people could both be rank 4 celestials, but without pure enough spirit blood, a person's cultivation base would forever be limited to half-step king. Only people like Shui Yu and the others were able to cross that barrier and become true kings. I would have forgotten about this if you hadn't reminded me. Here. Long Chen took out a small bottle. Inside was only a single drop of blood. This is 10,000 spirit blood? Ouyang Chuyu was shocked. Correct. You already possess spirit blood, so this 10,000 spirit blood can make it even purer, allowing you to cross the barrier and become a king eventually. Long Chen smiled. Ouyang Chuyu's expression was complicated as she looked at it. You should hurry and refine it. This 10,000 spirit blood is exceptionally profound. It actually contains a trace of heaven and earth's laws, which will make it easier for you to comprehend the heavenly Taos. Ouyang Chuyu was silent for a long time before she finally accepted the 10,000 spirit blood. She entered seclusion. Long Chen also gave another drop of 10,000 spirit blood to Shui Wuan. He trusted the two of them. This 10,000 spirit blood was incredibly important. It could activate a person's spirit blood and was a heaven-defying treasure that could allow people to draw out their own attributes' potential. Lord Heaven Eye had essentially sacrificed hundreds of thousands of aboriginals to obtain this 10,000 spirit blood for him. So Long Chen viewed it as exceptionally precious. Other than Ouyang Chuyu and Shui Wuhan, he didn't share it with anyone else. The reason Ouyang Chuyu was so moved wasn't just because of the 10,000 spirit blood, but also because Long Chen had shared its secret existence with her. Now she understood why the Dragon Blood Legion was so terrifying. In truth, she didn't know that the reason the Dragon Blood Legion was so powerful was because of a combination of the 10,000 spirit blood, heavenly Tao fruits, and divine mortal molting elixir. The days passed one by one. Long Chen kept a close eye over the state of affairs within the Eastern Wasteland. Finally, he received an invitation. Devil Execution Conference? Long Chen's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. He directly ripped the invitation to shreds. Guoran, alert the sect master. We're moving out. Long Chen looked into the distance, icy killing intent in his eyes. Ji Changkong, I've given you plenty of time to prepare. Don't disappoint me. The entire Eastern Wasteland was trembling because of one name. That name was Long Chen, Devil King Long Chen. His name had spread throughout every corner of the Eastern Wasteland. Any place with people knew Long Chen's name. Whether it was the cultivation world or the secular world, he was a topic mentioned over and over. Everyone discussed this strange figure. There were even many people that went to the Phoenix Cry Empire to investigate him. However, the majority of those people's questions were not nice ones. Some people's investigation concluded that having been bullied so much in his youth had caused Long Chen's heart to grow twisted, turning him into a bloodthirsty devil king. Then others added fuel to the fire, painting Long Chen as an unreasonable fiend, an immoral criminal. There were even some who said Long Chen had already joined the corrupt path. He definitely had some sort of relationship with them. When that theory was released, many people had retorted, arguing that Long Chen wouldn't do such a thing. Hadn't he fought against the corrupt path so fiercely in the immemorial path? In fact, hadn't he joined hands with the experts of the immemorial path to slaughter tens of thousands of elites from the corrupt path? However, those retorts were drowned by countless louder screams. In fact, those questioning people were threatened to stay silent. Some even disappeared from the world. As a result, the Eastern Wasteland's public opinion was that Long Chen was a cruel devil king with a twisted heart. But this devil king was too strong, and he only grew stronger. Not only had he slaughtered the corrupt path's experts, but he had also exterminated the ancient race's army. Now, his fiendish hand was stretching toward their righteous path. He was intent on overturning the Eastern Wasteland. Just at this time, the era's hero appeared. That hero was the Remote Heaven Gang. They couldn't bear to see the righteous path destroyed, and to avoid the loss of innocent lives, they sent out invitation cards for a devil execution conference. They invited all the brave warriors beneath the heavens to join hands to slay the devil in the name of the righteous path, returning the cultivation world to its old brilliance. And today was the day of the devil execution conference. The Remote Heaven Gang was extremely lively as tens of thousands of sects arrived. Millions of righteous experts had gathered. The Remote Heaven Plaza was full of an unprecedented number of righteous heroes. Looking at the packed plaza, Ji Changkong smiled. He said, "The old patriarch truly is amazing." He was able to gather practically all the experts in the Eastern Wasteland. But of course, Changkong, you're looking down on our Remote Heaven Gang's foundation. Although we were low-key during the past years, in truth, we were just patiently developing. After thousands of years of planning. All the various sects higher-ups have our Remote Heaven Gang's people in them. There are even some sects that are completely under our control. It was all in preparation for today. We'll use this chance to force the Xian Dao sect out of the Eastern Wasteland. No matter how strong the Xian Dao sect is, it's not like they can kill all of the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path, said the master of the Remote Heaven Gang, Ji Hongling. That Long Chen really was terrifying. He actually had such a trump card. A bit of fright appeared on Ji Changkong's face. He had seen the images of Long Chen unleashing the Eastern Wasteland Bell. If Long Chen had used it against them in the immemorial path, he would have been dead. You don't need to worry. That's definitely a weapon beyond the king item level. Its spirit item should be too proud to accept Long Chen as its master. It left right after attacking, meaning Long Chen only had an agreement with it to help once. Fortunately, that one time was used on the ancient races. Now our Remote Heaven Gang can use this devil execution conference to kill Long Chen and drive off the Zuantan Dao sect. Then the Eastern Wasteland will be the Remote Heaven Gang's. In other words, it'll be our Ji family's land. A pleased and sinister smile appeared on Ji Hongling's wrinkled face. It was like she could already see the sight of the Remote Heaven Gang dominating the Eastern Wasteland. Do you think Long Chen will come? He kept hiding within the Xian Dao sect before this. It seems he really is out of trump cards and doesn't dare to go out, said Ji Changkong. Whether or not he comes, the result will be the same. We've gathered practically all the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path. The patriarch even invited some friends who had been in seclusion for 1,000 years. Killing Long Chen and the others will be as easy as turning a hand. If my guess is right, it should be that the Xian Dao sect is afraid and has asked for assistance from their head sect. They're waiting for reinforcements. Once those reinforcements arrive, this matter won't be so simple. But did Ouyang Chuyu really think that I, Ji Hongling, would give her that chance? What a joke! During the Devil Execution Conference today, we'll show the righteous path the evidence of Long Chen colluding with the Aboriginals. Then with a bit more proof and sworn testimony, we'll make sure everyone knows Long Chen is an absolute villain. In any case, public opinion is under our control. As long as we wave the banner of heroically killing a devil, killing Long Chen is easy. If Ouyang Chuyu tries to stop us, then that means she's protecting a devil. Then can't we just kill her as well? In any case, we have all the proof and testimony we need. Even if their head sect sends people, so what? Do they dare to kill all the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path? Impossible. Once the Devil Execution Conference is over, Long Chen will be dead, and whether or not Ouyang Chuyu stays alive, the Xiantian Dao sect will definitely be torn down. Chengeng, remember, strength is important, but intelligence is even more important. So what if Long Chen is strong? So what if he encountered amazing opportunities? He's just a slightly stronger weed. No matter how strong he is, can he fight all the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path? To be a hegemon doesn't rely on martial strength. This world has its own rules, and only those who understand those rules can become hegemons, understood? Said Ji Hongling. This child understands, said Ji Changkong. No matter how strong one person becomes, so what? Can Long Chen become stronger than our remote heaven gang with its thousands of years of history? The old patriarch has already arranged everything. At that time, Long Chen will die to your hands. So what if you lost to him before? With him personally being killed by you, you will still be the king of the Eastern Wasteland. With the remote heaven gang behind you, who would dare to fight against you? Sneered Ji Hongling. Ji Changkong's eyes brightened. His admiration for his Ji family's patriarch grew more and more. His own little tricks were nothing compared to the patriarch's intelligence. The Ji family's machinations had been set into motion thousands of years ago. Now, they could use Long Chen as an opportunity to erase an enormous existence like the Xiantian Dao sect. And the head sect would only be able to endure. This was too brilliant. It was an unresolvable scheme. Even if Long Chen knew about it, he couldn't do anything. Those two called you Qianshan and Zhao Wuji. Don't waste them, reminded Ji Hongling. Don't worry, they surrendered themselves to us a long time ago. They can also see that the Xiantian Dao sect is doomed. All the proof has been prepared. Some of it is stuff even I never expected, hee, laughed Ji Changkong. Zhao Wuji and the others from the Xiantian Dao sect were the best people to testify against the Xiantian Dao sect. Good, keep them around for now, and when this matter is over, wait for an opportunity to make them disappear forever. The remote heaven gang doesn't need such trash. Disdain appeared in Ji Hongling's eyes. She clearly looked down upon Zhao Wuji and the others. Understood. Ji Changkong nodded. A sea of people was present within the remote heaven plaza. Even some figures that hadn't appeared in public for centuries had appeared. At first, these sects had been worried about how terrifying Long Chen was. But the remote heaven gang was smart, and they released a list of sects for them. When those people read through the list of sects participating in this, their terror diminished a great deal. Now, they were just waiting for everyone to present their evidence and views of Long Chen. Was he a devil who deserved the death penalty, or could he be saved? Seeing the millions of righteous experts that had gathered here, they were completely at ease. With this many experts present, they knew Long Chen wouldn't dare to do anything. Furthermore, the remote heaven gang had also promised that this was just a gathering of people, and everything had already been properly prepared. So their safety was guaranteed, and they could also get a favor from the remote heaven gang. Most importantly, there were few sects that had dared to not come. If they did offend the remote heaven gang, then considering their methods, the offender would probably end tragically. All the Eastern Wasteland's righteous powers had essentially gathered. In a few days, the Xiantian Dao sect would no longer exist in the Eastern Wasteland. Heavens, even the remote heaven gang's old patriarch has appeared. Clamor erupted as several figures appeared on the stage in front of the plaza. The person at the front was an extremely old elder whose hair was completely white. He was practically a living fossil. His cultivation base had reached the half-step king realm. Heavens, that seems to be the strange Peak Gates founder. He's still alive. And he's also a half-step king. Isn't that Nature Crane Valley's He Mingxiao? I hear he's been in seclusion for 1,000 years. Startled cries rang out as people saw 8 elders, all illustrious and famous old figures. The 8 of them were all half-step kings. Ji Changkong now slowly walked up the stage. He bowed toward the 8 of them, and then turning to face everyone, he announced, Today's Devil Execution Conference is to get justice for the countless fallen heroes of the righteous path. Our Eastern Wasteland's righteous path embodies the meaning of morality and integrity. Its brilliance lit up the world. But now, a heretic like Long Chen has appeared. He was shameless to the peak, ruthless and vicious, and colluded with the immemorial path's aboriginals to kill people from his own sect. He then colluded with the corrupt path, and there are suspicions that his bumpy childhood caused his heart to be twisted, leaving behind a heavy shadow. It was unknown just who wrote this speech, but it was incredibly passionate and descriptive. It painted Long Chen as an irredeemable fiend who had committed innumerable crimes. Today, my remote heaven gang is upholding justice, using the Devil Execution Conference to gather our righteous path to eliminate the traitor and return the righteous path to its old brilliance. Ji Chongkong raised his fist into the air. Eliminate the traitor and return the righteous path to its old brilliance. Eliminate the traitor and return the righteous path to its old brilliance. Eliminate the traitor and return the righteous path to its old brilliance. The huge crowd of righteous experts cheered so loudly that their faces turned red. The cheering of hundreds of thousands of people was truly grand. When did the righteous path ever have any brilliance? How is it that I, Long Chen, have never heard of such a thing? A mocking voice rang out, causing everyone's hearts to shake. They all turned to look. It was like the crowd's passionate cries were cut off by a knife. A group of people walked grandly into the remote heaven gang. It's the Xiantian Dao sex people? The whole nest came out? Are they going for a decisive battle? When Long Chen led over 100,000 of the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples over, it caused countless cries to resonate. Only 100,000 people? We've gathered all the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path, so exterminating them is as easy as turning a hand, sneered someone. The current Xiantian Dao sect was no longer the old Xiantian Dao sect. The corrupt path's sneak attack had heavily injured their core. The 36 supermonasteries took heavy damage. Thus, these 100,000 disciples were the Xiantian Dao sect's full force. Originally, Long Chen had only been planning on leading the Dragon Blood Legion to this battle. But he hadn't succeeded. The Xiantian Dao sect's 36 supermonasteries and all their subordinate monasteries had moved out in full force, except for some people to look after their sections. They had all heard of what Long Chen had encountered in the immemorial path. As for the corrupt path's sneak attack, although they had no proof it was due to a collusion between the corrupt path and the remote heaven gang, there was a 90% chance that it was. After paying that painful price, the Xiantian Dao sect's experts had finally erupted. This matter had provoked the fury within them. They decided to advance and retreat with Long Chen. Even if they knew that they might never return after advancing, they had still come. Long Chen also hadn't expected the Xiantian Dao sect to possess such passion when pushed to the brink of despair. He really hadn't been able to tell before that these disciples possessed such courage. Long Chen and Ouyang Chuyu walked side by side, and behind them were Meng Qi, Tang Wana, Wild, and the others. Behind them were the Dragon Blood warriors. After the baptism of that large battle, they were like unsheathed blades. The killing intent coming off of them had almost taken solid form. The Xiantian Dao sect's experts were behind them. However, these disciples were all very weak. There were quite a few that had only reached meridian opening, and some were only just bone-forging disciples. Although their cultivation bases were very low, they were fearless in the face of millions of experts. They all held their weapons tightly, their eyes icy cold. Brazen Long Chen, you irredeemable brute, you dare dash! A Xiantian expert was the first to begin cursing at Long Chen. With a point from Guoran, a golden ray killed him. Bastard, you dash! Another person was killed by Guoran. At the top of the stage, Ji Chongkong shouted, Long Chen, as expected, you are brutal and vicious. Even when others point out your crimes, you simply kill them cruelly. Do you think you can keep your crimes quiet? Even if you kill 100 people, 1,000 people, or even 10,000 people, can you kill all the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path's experts? Do you think the saber in your hand can extinguish the righteousness in people's hearts? In the immemorial path, this is exactly how you killed the righteous path's experts. You are a savage fiend. Has everyone seen it clearly? This is exactly how mercilessly he attacked the people of his own sect. Ji Changkong was delighted to see Long Chen arrive. But he put on a righteous expression, passionately stirring the flames. Ji Hongling was the first to start a cheer with the remote Heaven Gang's experts. Kill Long Chen! Kill Long Chen! Kill Long Chen! These ignorant people all looked as if they would only be happy once Long Chen was killed. Gu Yang and the others clenched their fists. Even the always peaceful Meng Qi was angered. Surprisingly, Long Chen was the only one with an indifferent expression. He didn't even look at those people who had been bought by the remote Heaven Gang. He icily stared at Ji Changkong. Not bad. This field is bigger than last time. But this shouldn't be all of it. Long Chen, don't try to talk your way out of this. No matter what you say, you can't talk your way out of the fact that you colluded with the Aboriginals to kill people of the righteous path. If you don't die today, there'll be no way to pacify the souls who died because of you. The Devil Execution Conference is being held just for you. I really didn't think you'd come, but that's also good. I'll publicly list your innumerable crimes so you're convinced. Sneered Ji Changkong. He cast a glance to a certain person. Dozens of experts immediately walked out. When they appeared, an uproar erupted amongst the Xiantian Dao sect's experts. Those people were the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples. The people at the front used to be part of the four heavenly geniuses, Zhao Wuji and Yu Qianshan. Zhao Wuji, Yu Qianshan, you traitors actually joined the remote Heaven Gang? These two had been the Xiantian Dao sect's peerless geniuses. They had countless worshippers and followers. Now seeing the people they had worshipped be so lacking in integrity as to join the remote Heaven Gang, curses rained down upon them. What do you understand? We renounce the darkness to join the light. The Xiantian Dao sect is evil and is harboring a criminal like Long Chen. That's the height of foolishness. And what we did wasn't join the remote Heaven Gang. Instead, we're standing up for the righteous path. In front of everyone, we'll testify to Long Chen's crimes. The higher-ups from the Xiantian Dao sect, are you all blind? Can you not see how fake this criminal is? It seems there really is no need for the Xiantian Dao sect to exist any longer, sneered Zhao Wuji. You! Zhao Wuji and Yu Qianshan had clearly betrayed them, but they still acted so sanctimoniously. The Xiantian Dao sect's people clenched their teeth. The monastery heads who had raised them were so furious that they quivered. Long Chen, in the immemorial path, you raped and looted, not shrinking from any crime, and Zhao Wuji started a steady stream of words that he seemed to know by heart. Wait a moment. If you want to kill me, there's no need to make it so complicated. Let me first ask, are all of you sure you want to stand there? Long Chen interrupted Zhao Wuji and looked at the Xiantian Dao sect disciples behind him. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, we were forced. We cried one of them. Courting death. One of the remote Heaven Gang experts' expression changed. He immediately charged over and let out a punch, wanting to kill that person. Suddenly, a translucent, icy sword chi flew over, accurately landing on that person's body. That person transformed into ice and then shattered. A foundation forging expert was killed in one blow. My Xiantian Dao sect's disciples can't be killed by someone like you, said Ouyang Chuyu icily. As soon as Ouyang Chuyu attacked, 7 of the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples ran over to Long Chen's side. Half-step king. The remote Heaven Gang's patriarch didn't particularly care about those people. It was Ouyang Chuyu who drew most of his attention. He had long since investigated her and knew that she was stuck at the peak of foundation forging. When had she become a half-step king? Sect Master, Senior Apprentice Brother Long Chen, please get us justice. These bastards, one of them knelt down in front of Ouyang Chuyu and began to weep. As soon as we exited the immemorial path, Ji Changkong, Zhao Wuji, and Yu Qianshan forced us to join the remote Heaven Gang. The senior apprentice brothers who refused were killed right there and then. They are the real brutes, Ouyang Chuyu's expression sank. At first, she had also been curious as to why other than Long Chen's people, none of the other disciples had returned. Now she understood. Zhao Wuji, Yu Qianshan, you should still remember the number 1 punishment of the Xiantiandao sect's law enforcement hall. Ouyang Chuyu glared at them hatefully. The two of them had not only betrayed them, but they had forced the others to defect as well. Furthermore, they had personally slaughtered people from their sect. That was inexcusable. Zhao Wuji and Yu Qianshan's expressions changed. The Xiantiandao sect's number 1 punishment was something even traitors wouldn't normally receive. Only people like them who had betrayed the sect and killed people while doing so had the qualifications to enjoy it. The Xiantiandao sect's number 1 punishment was called the 5-Heart Living Lotus. It sounded like a very refined name, but those who knew what it meant all got chills upon hearing it. Normally, one would think the 5 hearts referred to the 2 palms, 2 feet, and heart. But the Xiantiandao sect's 5 hearts didn't include the real heart. Instead, the 5th heart referred to the heart of the head, or the space between a person's eyebrows. A heart-piercing lotus's seed was planted in each of those 5 spots. It was said that this lotus seed originated from hell. It was only able to survive off other people's bodies. During that process, it would extract a person's soul and blood to nourish itself. Furthermore, the person infected with the lotus would feel endless pain during this process. The lotus would take root within the body, and the pain was indescribable. This kind of pain was enough to cause a person to die. But because a seed would be planted in the head as well, it would cause a strange cycle. It made it so a person could die, but they would still feel every little bit of the pain. The most terrifying thing was that the lotus would feed the energy back to the heart. It allowed a person to live 3 times longer than normal. This was the Xiantiandao sect's cruelest punishment. It had only been used a few times in all of history. Unless a person was completely evil, it wouldn't be used. Even those who betrayed the sect were normally just killed instead of being inflicted with this punishment. But today, Ouyang Chuyu was truly infuriated. Ouyang Chuyu, you really are despicable. Do you think using a soul art to control a few disciples would be enough to invert black and white? Laughable. Do you think the righteous disciples are idiots? Ji Changkong hastily took Zhao Wuji's place to respond when he saw that he was terrified. Ouyang Chuyu, you're too shameless and despicable. A person like you can be a sect master? Garbage. A garbage sect master and a garbage sect. Exactly, such a sect is just garbage. The existence that raised a devil like Long Chen definitely isn't anything good and should be destroyed with him. With a subtle hint from Ji Changkong, countless people began to furiously roar, cursing Ouyang Chuyu. She trembled from rage, having an urge to slaughter them all. Die! Surprisingly, Long Chen suddenly roared. It was like the roar of a god, and it contained his powerful spiritual strength. Those crazily cursing experts received a blow from some unknown energy, and their heads exploded. The spiritual strength contained in Long Chen's roar had followed their voices back to the source. Those people in the midst of shouting were instantly locked down by his spiritual strength. In truth, the majority of those people shouting belonged to the remote heaven gang. They had simply hidden themselves in the crowd to control the atmosphere. As a result, over 1,000 people were killed. Those people didn't have high cultivation bases. They had mostly been at the Xiantian realm or below, and they were simply shouting for effect. Long Chen, you demon, this merciless slaughtering of the righteous path just further proves that you need to be put down, shouted the remote heaven gang's patriarch. A war flag appeared in his hands, and that flag had the immortal character for remote on it. That was the remote heaven gang's top treasure. Its history could be traced back to the ancient era. The reason the remote heaven gang was called that was precisely because of this flag. The remote heaven flag flapped. Heaven and earth changed color as a powerful pressure descended upon Long Chen. I've long since wanted to see the power of your remote heaven gang's protective treasure. Ouyang Chuyu sneered and took out the heaven-catching drum. Booming sound filled the air as the heaven-catching drum began to fight against the remote heaven war flag. The Xiantiandao sect is pig-headed and harboring a devil king. "Everyone, we must suppress these villains," shouted the patriarch to the other half-step kings. "Ouyang Chuyu, your Shen Tiandao sect really is intolerable. Do you think you can control the entire eastern wasteland? To protect the righteous path, don't blame us for using numbers to bully you," sneered one of the other half-step kings. Along with the other 6 half-step kings, they took out king items. Boundless pressure descended upon Ouyang Chuyu. "Brothers, kill every last person here," said Long Chen. He was just about to erupt with all his power and see if he could block a king item's attack. "Stop!" Suddenly, a cold shout rang out from the sky, shaking everyone's eardrums. People felt like the world had lost its color, as if time had paused because of that shout. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly raised their heads. They saw a white-robed elder in the sky standing with his hands clasped behind his back. The elder was tall and skinny. He wore fiery red clothes, and there was an image of a pill cauldron on his chest. That pill cauldron had a beautiful mountain valley carved onto it. Although others didn't sense anything from him, Ouyang Chuyu and the other half-step kings were all appalled. King Realm. That person's aura was reserved, so it wasn't possible to tell his cultivation base. But the fluctuations of heaven and earth all turned sluggish due to his appearance. Only half-step kings were able to sense this person's terror. "Is the righteous path so energetic that it can afford to kill its own people?" asked that elder furiously. "Senior comes from Pill Valley? Excellent, please get justice for our righteous path." The remote Heaven Gang's patriarch hastily cupped his fists and bowed. In truth, he was filled with regret. He knew that even if they exterminated the Xintiandao sect because of Long Chen, the Xintiandao sect's head sect still wasn't something they could offend. And so he had intentionally spread the news of the Devil Execution Conference in advance to some larger powers. One of those was Pill Valley. According to his plan, Pill Valley and the others should have only arrived after Long Chen was killed. They were there to be witnesses, and when the Xintiandao sect's people arrived, they wouldn't be able to do anything. But no matter how meticulous the plan was, accidents always occurred. He hadn't expected Pill Valley's experts to arrive so quickly. It threw a wrench in his plans, but he could only force his way through this unexpected situation and have the Pill Valley's king take charge. The appearance of a king immediately caused the scene to calm down. Even Long Chen hadn't expected kings to appear. Now it was troublesome. Long Chen wasn't afraid of half-step kings, but he definitely didn't have a chance against a king. Ouyang Chuyu had told him just how big the difference between a half-step king and a king was. It was an unbridgeable gap. At this time, over 10 men and women flew over as well, all wearing Pill Valley's robes. They all appeared very young. There were 7 golden lines at the front of their chests. That caused Long Chen to be extremely startled. 7 lines represented that they could refine 7th-tier medicinal pills. And their cultivation bases were all at the late sea expansion. Some were even at the peak. Those people stood behind the elder, icily looking at the people below. Their eyes were full of arrogance, as if they were looking at ants. However, with such a high cultivation base and the ability to refine 7th-tier pills, they had the qualifications to be arrogant. "Long Chen, do you know your sins?" The Pill Valley's king shouted at Long Chen. "Senior Dash, shut up. This isn't somewhere you can speak," said the king, cutting off Ouyang Chuyu's words. Ouyang Chuyu was enraged. He was going too far. Even without investigating the rights and wrongs of the matter, he directly interrogated Long Chen. This was completely unfair. "Long Chen, do you know your crimes?" he shouted again. But this time a powerful pressure crashed down on Long Chen. "Does it have a damn to do with you? In fact, none of this has anything to do with you. Did you run out without taking your medicine this morning?" said Long Chen. "Arrogant brat. Absolutely courting death." "Master, let me go out and kill this brat." The disciples from Pill Valley immediately shouted furiously, ready to attack Long Chen immediately. As expected, you are arrogant and don't know what respect is. No wonder all I heard on the way was how presumptuous you were and how you colluded against your own sect. Just looking at you is disgusting. There's no need to waste so many words. "Follow me back to Pill Valley," said the king. He was just about to take action when fierce spatial fluctuations appeared. Sorry, but it seems this matter isn't just up to your Pill Valley. Otherwise, the face of the Central Plains' ancient races will be lost. A black-robed man appeared. He had 2 horns on his head, and his long hair fell naturally. There were faint flames within his eyes. Space began to violently twist because of his appearance. Everyone was startled. Another king had appeared. "What do you think you're doing?" asked the Pill Valley's king. The black-robed man wasn't servile nor overbearing against him. Long Chin used despicable methods to slaughter my ancient race's experts. The Alliance Master has ordered me to investigate, so unfortunately, I cannot allow you to bring him away. The Pill Valley's king was clearly intimidated upon hearing that. Sorry to arrive late. This Long Chin killed too many of my ancient family alliance's disciples. Lord D. Long has ordered me to capture him alive. Just at this moment, a flying boat appeared in the sky. The boat was put away, revealing a middle-aged man. 3 kings had now appeared. Ouyang Chuyu was shocked. She didn't understand how this matter had drawn all of them over. After all, she had long since asked the head sect for reinforcements. But those reinforcements still hadn't arrived before these 3 kings. Ouyang Chuyu didn't know that the remote Heaven Gang's patriarch had long since released the news. He had calculated everything properly, but there had still been a slight mistake. The 3 kings were truly too fast. Seniors, Long Chin committed innumerable vile crimes. It is better to execute him to get justice for the righteous path, and Ji Changkong rose and bowed. As a generation's expert, he wanted to express himself. After all, the 3 of them were kings. If they were to take a liking to him, he would be like a fish that leaped over the dragon gate. He was unwilling to stay forever in the remote Heaven Gang. "Shut up. This is not a place you can speak. Who do you think you are?" shouted a young man from Pill Valley. Ji Changkong was infuriated, but he didn't say anything. He simply smiled slightly. Meng Qi and the others were all nervous. They hadn't expected this matter to develop to this point. It was troublesome now with 3 kings. The 3 kings didn't say anything for a while as they stood in the air. From their eyes, it was possible to see that they were communicating with spiritual strength. After a long while, the Pill Valley's king announced, "We have decided to first bring away the criminal known as Long Chin." He extended his hand, just about to attack. "Ha ha!" Long Chin suddenly raised his head and laughed. That laughter was full of disdain. "Brazen criminal, you still dare to be brazen with death waiting for you?" shouted one of Pill Valley's disciples. A pair of wings appeared on his back, and a terrifying heat roasted the sky. 4 colored runes revolved around him. A huge flame spear pierced toward Long Chin, arriving in front of him in an instant. It was as quick as lightning and contained a terrifying aura. This one attack shocked everyone. Bang! Pow! A scale-covered hand shattered the flame spear, and another hand slapped across that person's face. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.